All right. County board members always waiting on staff, so just kidding. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you. I'd like to call the Will County Board Executive Committee meeting meeting to order at 10:33 a.m. And if we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to invite, I see Mayor Noak in the back. Would you like to lead us in the pledge this morning? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mayor, and welcome. Can I have a roll call, please? Oh, I don't know. The system is not set up just yet. Sorry, Tim. Okay.
Richmond, Williams, Butler, Freeman, Hickey, Logan, Newquist, Oxley, Pretzel, Trainier, Winfrey, Van Dyne.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Looking for a motion for 264932 to approve the minutes of the executive committee meeting on May 14th. Motion Trainier, seconded by Winfrey. Any discussion? Previous roll by Hickey,
You need a roll call.
second by Oxley. We do need a roll call. I apologize.
Richmond,
Nice try.
Williams, Butler, Freeman, Hickey, Logan, Newquist, Oxley, Pretzel, Trainier, Winfrey, Van Dyne.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Do we have anyone from the public wishing to speak this morning? I see nobody from the public wishing to speak. Moving on to old business. Resolution 26-4979, resolution establishing a Will County land bank. Motion Trainier, seconded by Winfrey. Is there any discussion? Discussion item. We'll go to, hit your button there. We'll start with Mr. Logan. Good morning, Mr. Logan.
Good morning, and thank you. Is there anybody that can talk in regards to this? I have a couple of questions in regards.
Yes, sir. We do have Doug Pryor from the CD and also Hugh O'Hare from the Will County Governmental League. Welcome, gentlemen, and Doug, if you want to answer some questions, we'll start with Mr. Logan.
Where is he?
All right, so.
Vince, I don't see. Okay, there.
No,
Sorry.
you're good. Yeah, so one of the questions, I went through the presentation, and I hate to ask this question, but what's wrong with the procedure we have now, and why are we going to this?
So as it stands today, we don't have a tool to do this. So the procedure we have today, where the treasurer's office essentially takes what is roughly plus or minus 3,000 properties a year, Tim, and pushes them to auction. And that's really the disposal tool that's available to the county today. This is a little bit different, right? First of all, it's not designed to be that big. We're not talking about contemplating all those properties. And there is specific language in the way this is written. And I want to be clear, this is borrowed largely from several other Illinois existing land banks. But the way this language is written, the land bank can only acquire a property with the express consent of the community in which that property is located, which I think is important. But this tool allows for us to strategically assemble properties to help communities essentially target blighted areas, assemble properties, pull them together, extinguish title issues, back tax issues, environmental issues, and ultimately get a property that's currently not in productive use, not paying taxes, into the hands of either a responsible owner or developer or community, or frankly, sorry, I'm going to throw stuff this morning. Or like if it needs to go to forest preserve because it's adjacent and it needs to be for public use, great. But it allows us to strategically take these properties and put them back into productive use with the sort of ongoing advice and consent of the governing officials for those specific jurisdictions. And today, Will County's not making use of this tool. So again, don't think of it as a program or a system. It's literally a tool that is available through state law, and all of our neighbors are currently using, and just Will County isn't today.
Okay, yeah, and I worked for another county where we did this. And I'm sure you're aware of like that broken windows philosophy, that if there's broken windows, it's gonna lead to more broken windows. And there's a whole big thing on it.
To us in the economic space, we call it
Yeah,
the Blazers
yeah.
fallacy.
And we don't wanna, we know how that goes on. One thing I didn't see is who can buy these properties once they're rehabbed?
So disposition, we could go to developers, to
Is that in
individual
this
owners.
presentation? Because I didn't see it.
It's in the language for the resolution.
Okay,
It's
cool.
in there.
All
Yeah.
right, as long as it's in there. And then who would control the money?
So this is governed by its own board, right? So the funding would be controlled by that board. There are specific reporting requirements that state law requires. And to be clear, this is a public entity, so it has the same visibility that another public entity would in terms of funding reporting. But ultimately, it's the board of directors of this entity. And the board structure, as it's proposed in this document, and again, it is frankly largely borrowed from existing ones that are working.
Right. There's a lot
but-
of counties that do this.
There are. But sorry, I wrote this down.
That's
Make
okay.
sure I say it properly.
Who selects the board?
So it's this governing document. So the county is contemplated as having 3 positions, which would be the board chair or their appointee, county executive or their appointee, county treasurer or their appointee, and then 1 each for each participating municipality. So municipalities that sign on this, each one of them gets their own representative, and then it contemplates 5 sort of expert positions, right? Somebody who understands real estate, development, finance, economic development, and then there's 1 sort of at-large, wider position, think like community organizations or
Right.
somebody like that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love this idea and it's probably long overdue. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to see this. And I just had a couple questions and
Of
thank you. I know you
course.
have the
Thank
answers
you.
for me, so. thank
Yeah, no, there's a ton of detail and clarification. I appreciate that.
you. Thank you.
Member Chenier?
Thank you, Chair Van Dyne. I would probably want to amend this document so that it reads that as a member of Will County, they shall appoint the following members. It should say county board speaker or designee. We don't really use the term chair at our county board, and I know they do in all the other counties, but we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that would be my major concern, but then, well, actually I have 2 major concerns. The other one is, I know currently we have a lot of these orphan properties, odd shaped lots that, if I recall correctly, occasionally go up for auction. And if Tim was here, maybe. Thank you. Maybe he can clarify this a little bit for me, but I've seen this list and we have like, I don't know, 500 or thousands of these all over, Will County, majority, I think, in Joliet. And what would be different having this organization from what we currently do?
So again, it's Treasurer Brophy's mandate annually is to put them out there for auction. What he doesn't have the power to do today is strategically assemble, work with communities to develop them. In addition to that, this gives the ability for, again, cleanup and preparation. And I'm just going to take a second and sort of indulge here, but the challenge with these properties is, imagine, if you will, you have a property that has $30,000 worth of back taxes, it has title issues, it maybe has an environmental issue, and that property has roughly 0 value as it sits today, right? Because of what's going on with it. The challenge is nobody's going to take that on because it's a net loser from the beginning and there are other sites to choose. So blight sort of begets blight to that extent, right? It becomes very challenging to redevelop these properties. And I would love to, in my role, tell you, like, in Will County, of course, we don't have any of these properties, but the reality is we do. And it isn't some large systemic problem that we face, but the reality is developing a tool today that we control locally while we have these powers to start addressing these, even if it's marginal, one by one, bit by bit, as the communities want to, I think frankly is a smart long-term strategy.
Okay, and there's no compensation to any of the members of this board.
No compensation to any of the members of the board.
Where's the money going to come from to ready these properties?
So we do have some federal allocation remaining that expires at the end of the year that would kind of function as seed. But historically, there have been federal dollars that have pushed into this space, specifically for land bank. But to be clear, land bank acquisition often happens as gifts, donations,
Yeah, you mentioned that.
entities that ultimately are saying, please help us get this back on, but also community-owned properties. So it's.
I just know sometimes when people try to give their property away, at least I know the state of Illinois will frequently say no. I was
Well-
just at the Edith Farnsworth house yesterday and the owner, Mr. Palumbo, tried to give it to the state of Illinois and it was not accepted. So
And
I'm just, would this land bank necessarily
Yeah.
maybe turn down property that was offered to them?
I think that's plausible. But also in those cases, there's a maintenance issue,
Right.
right? And the objective of this entity isn't to hold and maintain, right? It really is about pushing them out into that space.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. I think I'm going to be a yes on this. I just really wanted more discussion about what it means. We had some last month, but more questions popped into my head over the ensuing weeks. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Mr. Oxley?
We had prior conversation about this several years back. The Will County Center for Economic Community Concerns ran this program in the Land Use Department. Tim Mack was the funding arm of it through HUD.
Mhm.
This is very similar to that. Is that your intent to get a group of contractors to do these projects and stuff, or what?
So.
How you can handle it?
Long story short, like the way this document's written, CED would be sort of the initial administrator, but I want to be clear, my objective is only to get it off the ground, right? This is not something we're seeking, compensation for to run it. I would like to get it off the ground, ultimately get the board settled as we bring communities on board. I have Hugh with me here today. We've already had some of these initial conversations where communities are asking for this, right? But get it off the ground. And yeah, I would love to have a professional administrator. I talked to our neighbors down in Kankakee. They have somebody, it's a part-time external expert firm that runs this, right? Maybe something like that as an option just as we get rolling, right? And to be clear, we're starting small. But the objective is to put this tool on the books, have it available for communities to be able to use this tool to attack these properties that they want to address.
So in purchasing tax lien sales, would the firm make the county whole on the taxes, back due taxes, or?
No. To be clear, like anything with back taxes, that's usually a challenge to redevelopment. And these have the authority to extinguish back taxes, which again, that's one of the common important hurdles. If you have somebody who has walked away from a property and abandoned it, as the back taxes stack up, it essentially precludes anybody from buying it and trying to redevelop it. And that's how we end up with these long-term blighted properties.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee Member Newquist?
Sherry.
Thanks. I just want to make sure that I'm really understanding this. I'm a little fuzzy on a few things. So, okay, we've identified a property, let's say it owes 30,000 in back taxes. The owners have walked away. It's blighted, but it's strategic, in some way, shape, or form. So the land bank acquires the property, and I'm still not quite sure how they acquire the property. Does the county just say, we're putting it in the land bank, or do we buy it, or?
It could be any of the above, right? It could be a
Okay.
purchase, it could be a municipal transfer, it could be again, gifted, as Sherry mentioned, from a previous owner. So those are all kind of in the mix. I think in the short run, we're probably looking more closely at municipal transfers and kind of their specific targets because it's easier. But the idea is you're able to acquire these through a variety of different means. And to be clear, it's not some sort of foreclosure power or, the entities taking
Right.
them. Yeah.
Okay, so now the land bank's acquired this property. Let's say it's in a municipality. It's not, an unincorporated Will County. So now we work with the treasurer's office to get rid of the back taxes. The land use entity, this land bank entity has the ability to waive back taxes, so to speak.
It does. The state specifically granted those powers in the Land Bank Act. I think it was 2011 was their first swing at it. And the reason for that was, again, it's viewed as a specific barrier to redevelopment.
Right.
So these entities have been granted that authority in state statute, and then later the state granted the authority for locals to enact these through intergovernmental agreement rather than by a state action.
Okay, so now the land bank has this blighted property. The property back taxes have gone away. We've cleared up the title, everything's primed. So at that point, let's just say that there is no developer interest. Let's say like we're kind of stuck with this property. Does the land bank redevelop it? Do they bring it up to code? Does the land bank work with the municipality to bring it up to code? I mean, at that point, or do we just hold on to it under the assumption that once the back taxes and the title are cleared up, a developer, it's a strategic property, some developer will be interested in it?
I mean, that's the intent, right?
Okay.
The land bank doesn't intend to act as a developer, although I do want to say it's important, that's an important reason why you have those people on that board, those experts in that space that can help redeploy it. But it might be part of a land assemblage where a community is saying like, hey, let's get these 3 in a row in, and then we've got a better package. The other reality is, again, these are not our top properties around the county. They're not our highest value properties. And you're going to find yourself in a situation, I mean, just to be clear, where you're pushing them to market, oftentimes at below market value to spur development in the parts of these communities where they haven't seen it, right? So the entity has an obligation to have all of the properties that it has in its possession on its website, visible, clear, and again, you have sort of clear acquisition, priorities and processes based on what the county and municipalities are attempting to do with those spaces.
And the ultimate goal is to get the property back on the tax rolls.
100%. That's just it. You have something that's generating no revenue for you today, no jobs, no home for a resident, no tax revenue. The objective is to create something that does create benefit for the municipalities and county.
So we find a developer, do we sell it to them? And then
Yes,
where does
you
that
transfer
money
title. You it back into the land
go?
bank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Committee Member Butler?
So for the ones where you have to go to the auction and bid on them,
Mhm.
do you actually bid on these as another resident? Or do the private people that come out and bid take precedent and you wait to see if it sells?
Look, that's a fair question and one that I think probably makes sense to be, discussed by the board in terms of how they approach it. My preference, and to be clear, not my intent to own this or run this for an extended period of time, just want to give them the tool. But my preference would be no, because of course, if there's a private owner that wants to build a home or a private developer that wants to build a commercial property in play, that's not where we want to be, right? The whole point is to exist in those places where those people don't exist. So yeah, I don't want to be bidding against anybody who wants to buy a
But when we
property.
explain it, we do, there is an option for us to buy those lands. And if there's other bidders, that has to be explained.
In terms of,
Well, if you go to an auction, there's usually people there, and if other
Oh.
people bid on it, you can't outbid them.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't make any sense to outbid them.
no, that would be a terrible strategic
So
choice.
that needs to be
Yeah.
part of the policy that is presented, that you cannot bid against private people.
I mean, in terms of an acquisition policy for the organization, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense because the purpose of these is not to buy those types of properties.
So once the land bank acquires the properties
Mhm.
and, fixes it up or whatever, how do they assess the value when they go to sell it to a prospective buyer?
And in the same way you'd assess the value of any other property you're selling, right? You go to the market and see what it will bear, right? And it's why it's useful to have real estate professionals around.
So
Although,
it's not like you're giving these things away for free.
no, although there may be some situations where that makes sense. Let's say we have a municipality that says, hey, we've assembled these properties, you take them, help us clean it up, and then we want to run an RFP to a developer group, and we're willing to give the land. Okay, right? But in a perfect world, no. There's some revenue, but again, they are challenged properties, right? So it's not intended to be a revenue generator either, right? You essentially want to, break even, recycle the money, go get the next one. That's the idea. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Balich.
Yeah, I have a question for you. I know somebody that has a business going around and getting all these blighted pieces of property. And I never really got into it about how it works. He just told me he buys them for $1. And then he has to redo it and then they go back in the tax roll, like you said.
mhm.
It's a positive thing for the government. But, when you start thinking about this, so after, I think it's the third year, they put it up for auction.
Mhm.
And when they put it up for auction, that means that someone's going to pay for it. It's pay the back taxes. They're eliminating the back taxes now, right?
The land bank does have the ability to do that.
So
yeah.
when you're getting it there, the county loses the money from whatever it would be. which is
The money
probably
that
nothing,
currently isn't being
probably
paid.
zero,
Yeah.
right? But now, the people that own that property, depending where it is, there's a value to the land, and there's a value of, the building's not completely garbage, which it might not be. Who pays the owner the equity that he would have had if he didn't get it taken away?
So again, we're not looking to take properties. It's not a foreclosure process. And properties like this, right, lack equity, right? I mean, the ones we're targeting are ones that lack equity. Now, if there is, again, a strategic purchase that a city wants to do, and they've got to do it at market value, then they're being paid for the equity. But the whole point of this is properties that don't have equity, that aren't attracting private development.
What I was trying to get at is like, say you live in Homer Township and you haven't paid your taxes in 3 years and you have no intention of paying.
Hmm.
And the house is not the best shape, but it's still valuable. Okay, then they take it and then the owner can sue the county or the city or whoever it is to get up to $100,000. I think that's the number right now. But there's a federal law that says they got to get all their equity. That was in 2023.
Okay.
The Supreme Court ruled that you can't take people's houses without giving them all the equity. So there's this disparity between federal and state law in Illinois.
Yeah.
And if they go to court, I'm sure that the federal law supersedes the state law. So now, what happens if somebody decides to say, I want my equity, and it turns out you're saying there is no equity because there's only, say, so if it's a blighted home and it's got a lot of fines and a lot of this and that, there might only be $20,000 left. So that's like nothing, but who pays that equity?
So what you're referencing, to my understanding, is the tax sale process, right?
Correct.
The land bank wouldn't have tax sale powers, right? And so In a case like this, we wouldn't be the disposing entity that seizes equity, right? And so like what you're describing, imagine if you will, it's somebody who's just in a home, maybe still living there and got a few years behind and got their taxes sold, right? That isn't the sort of property we're contemplating.
Now, I'm talking
here.
about if they left their home
Sure.
and didn't pay for 3 years. Am I correct? It's 3 years. If you don't pay, that's when they go into work.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm saying if they left for 3 years and let the place just go to garbage, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there's still a value of the land and a value of something in there maybe.
Yeah.
So if they want to get their money, up to 100,000 in the state of Illinois without fighting the feds, who pays that if they take it to court and they say, does the land bank have to pay that money, or is it the county that gave it to the land bank?
So the land bank would not be the tax seizing entity. And I'll be candid, I'm not expert in this space you're describing. I don't want to put you on the spot, Treasurer Brophy, but do you have is that something you've encountered?
Okay. So if your taxes aren't paid, they go to a tax sale. And private entity buys it. Year 2, the private entity can do that again. Year 3, the private entity can do that again. And then they can go to court and ask a judge to give them the deed. Tyler is the case that they're referring to up in Minnesota, Kevin. Illinois is one of the last to finally take any action with regards to the results of that case. And we're due for some changes in the way we hold tax sales now. Used to be that tax buyer received the property for whatever they had paid in tax. They paid, say, $5,000 a year in tax. They paid $15,000 plus whatever maintenance and holding cost. So they own the property for $15,000, free and clear of anything else. The mortgages, the liens, everything is out of their way when they've finished that process. In some cases, the properties are not purchased by a tax buyer. So the levy entities on the tax bill are out that money because nobody wants it. It sits for year 1, it sits for year 2, it sits for year 3. And at that point, the trustee that we've employed will hold this auction. So it's different. The tax sale is one thing, the auction is another. Auctions are 3-year-old property. We put them in, we use a silent bid process, and anybody can submit a silent bid to buy that parcel for a minimum of $801. I don't know where that minimum comes from. If it's statutory, I'm not sure, but it's $801 at the moment. Once those are purchased, as I understand it, they're purchased at auction and they get the property lien free. So where this comes in is where nobody paid the back taxes, nobody bought them at tax sale, and nobody bought it at auction. Nobody wants this property. These are what we're talking about. Now, we have worked with the trustee. It's an Edwardsville law firm that does this for the entire state. Almost every county of the 102 counties, I think 90 some use this same firm. We've worked with them before to pull things off of that list in cases where somebody has said, hey, there's a use for that property. Can we negotiate this directly? And they do. And they come up with a fair market value and they trade it, goes back on the tax roll. But there are still many that sit unused and unacted upon that nobody wants. Does that address the specific question, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, you answered it pretty well, but my question is, there's always some people that just don't care. And then they realize there's a law that says they get paid the difference between what their house is
Yes.
worth. And they're going to say, well, I want my money.
Right.
And
The lawsuit did reinstate some rights to those folks for some equity in some.
Right, so
in
the
some cases.
question I got is, I'm just what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
If somebody says say like year number 3, they're taking, it, goes up and you give it away, all right, because it's blighted, it's no good, and there's a lot of money owed. Then year number 4 comes and the guy says, hey, you took my property. Now, I don't know about statute of limitations.
Yeah, there are time limits
But,
and so.
but let's just say it's year 4, guy calls up and says, hey, I want my equity out of this thing. And this, then somebody's got to argue the point. Say it's only $4,000 or $5,000,
Right,
but someone's got to pay it.
right. So
If
that
they go to court and they lose, you know what I'm saying?
there's a formula there. We haven't implemented it yet, but as I understand it, there's going to be a new formula which says when that tax buyer takes the property, upon the first transfer, that establishes the value. So if he bought this house for $15,000 in taxes and he turns around and sells it for $45,000, there's a $30,000 profit there, right? That's the number that's in play now that the previous owner can come back and ask for. What we don't know is what these entities, I think, are going to do is they're going to transfer it for $15,000 to entity B. And now that first transfer has zero profit in it. And then entity B is going to go out and do something with it. So, and I don't know how this will play in what the courts will do with it. But that's what we're hearing. Some of these tax buyers are simply setting up LLC 1 and LLC 2, and they transfer between, and then that solves the problem of it having any equity for anybody to sue for.
Yeah,
So right now, there's a loophole.
yeah, so it's kind of like something that's out in the cloud.
Right,
Okay.
but again,
So we
these
don't
are
know the
not,
answer.
Let's move on if we
Well,
can.
Okay.
these are not.
I just wanted to know. We
Yeah.
really don't know the answer.
We don't have the answer, right? Yeah, that's correct. All right, member Ogala?
Thank you. I have a couple questions. You mentioned that the money to start this would be dollars that would be expiring end of this year. Where are those dollars? What are they?
So those are expiring Rescue Act dollars that were in our entity and still need to be expended.
So these were ARPA dollars that were given to the CED.
Correct.
How much do you have available?
For this project, we estimate something on the order of $1 million, which, to be candid, is small for starting a land bank, but it's enough to begin and start that process.
So you only have $1 million left from ARPA dollars, or you have other funding?
We do have other funding, but most of that is directed to other projects that will
Other
be done by
projects.
year's end. Yeah.
Okay. And I think the question was answered. There is no equity in the properties that would be sought for this land banking. Is that true, or is it not true?
So I think for the most part, when we talk about ones that would come from the tax auction, right? I think the way that Mr. Brophy described it is, I think, a pretty clear, bright path to no equity, right? If it went through 3 years of no sale at tax sale and then wasn't purchased for $800, that's a pretty clear indication of a property not really having value or equity value associated with it. In terms of other properties, other, dispositions, if, say, somebody gifts a property, there's a land trust that owns vacant properties, like the equity question doesn't come into play anymore.
Right.
If there's a municipal transfer or a county transfer, the equity issue really doesn't come into play anymore because the owner gave it to us. And if for some reason the entity was going to market and purchasing something, then there will have been some dollar amount associated with it, but it would have been paid.
Okay, so just, is that clarified in here, that it's written in here to say the types of properties would be A, B, C, and D, something like that?
It is, yes. Yeah, types of properties, types of acquisitions is included in this document.
Okay, so anybody whose property goes to tax sale, such as a senior who can't pay their property taxes and they don't for 3 years, that's bought every year. Because
Correct.
there's value in
Yeah,
that property.
there's value in those, and those go a completely different path.
Correct.
Yeah.
I just wanted to verify that that is true. And then as far as the membership of who's on this board, who set this up? Can that be changed?
So this is, I'll be candid, I put this together based on what I was seeing with other land banks of this type around the state of Illinois. I didn't look outside of Illinois, but this is largely continuous with what we see with other regional land banks. So entities like, Kankakee, DuPage, the Northern Illinois one, the Central Illinois one, that have a very similar structure where it's counties and municipalities working together on them. That this is a fairly standard structure based on that. And if it typically follows the same, some county representation, one for each municipality, and then some expertise on the board to help the board sort of frame and make strategic decisions.
Okay, so my question is, the way it's written today, it's the county board speaker, chairman, whatever we call it, position. The treasurer, who he knows all this stuff, so that
Right.
makes sense to me.
Yeah,
And then the
sorry,
county,
Tim.
and then we have the county executive. So what other position usually fills that? Because most counties don't have the county executive position.
I mean, I do want to say Champaign has one of these, and I don't know exactly what structure they use with the executive. Their only example, right? They're the only other executive example I know. But as a general rule, it's maybe another expert. There's a little bit of play in that, or you'll have a specific mayor targeted if you have, like in Kankakee, for example, like the city of and the county of did it together. And so I think that they get a little bit of special treatment as a founding member. But as a general rule, that one is just kind of, I don't know that there's a one-to-one comparison for you. on
Yeah,
that.
I would guess not, because we had the executive form of government and there's only one other county in the state that has that. So
Yeah.
that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
So my only concern is, and you can let me know, what is our current executive's role in the CED?
She's currently our chair.
Right. So for me, that's kind of, she's the chair of the CED and then she'd be on this committee. So, I mean, I'm almost thinking maybe we pick somebody else to be in that third position, maybe the SOA, because he has a lot of information there, or maybe even a member from our state's attorney's office because they understand a lot of law and stuff like that.
My intent with this structure was to try to capture leadership at the county level, or whomever the leadership thinks is appropriate to put on these entities. And I do want to be clear, whether it is the speaker, the treasurer, or the executive, I name the roles specifically, but also clarify or their designee. My expectation is, I don't know that any of those three people will actually sit on this and come to these. Maybe Tim, if you can. It's designed to have significant county influence. Like the way this is written probably has more county influence than most of the other ones I saw, but that was by design. I'm coming to you first and, kind of making this ask to let us lead, and then, let Hugh and I continue our conversations with municipalities and, again, let them start using this tool. So, heard, right? But ultimately also very much not my call on that structure, to be clear.
Who makes the call of the structure?
Well, I'm asking this board to pass it.
So this board could change the structure if they wanted to do it.
Theoretically, yes, I would suggest that there are limits, right? Because ultimately, the thing that's baked into this would be the IGA that goes to the municipalities too. They need to agree to it. And for the most part, this is their tool, right? So there would be limits to, I think, what's considered to be an acceptable structure. But ultimately, yeah, that's why we're having these conversations.
Well, I'm just asking because, I mean, the resolution's written and everything's in there. So I'm not sure that anyone on this board is thinking that they're going to change the format of who might be on that. I don't know. I have not heard that. So that's why I was asking that question in case somebody thought somebody else should be. So thank you.
Fair.
Okay, a couple more committee members turn their lights on. So I know, Julie, you've been waiting patiently. So I'm going to go to Member Hickey.
Thank you, Chair. Could you speak
Speaker.
a little bit to the transparency, oversight, and the audit authority, how that's structured?
So it's essentially falls under the same rules that municipalities have. So it would require an audit. It would require transparency. It would be subject to FOIA. So it basically, and meeting posting requirements, same thing. So in the same way that it sort of leans on the authority of the participating governing bodies, it has similar reporting requirements to those.
Okay, and is that standardized at the state level in this ILCS 220-1,
well-
or is that more local?
No,
control?
that's actually, that's determined by the state in their original enabling and ordinance or statute. And it's how everyone that I looked at is structure, they have those same requirements. So, because it functions as a public body. So yeah, it has the same requirements.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Lita Richmond?
Thank you. So Doug, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming out here. Thank you for looking forward into ways to try and make things operate more like a business. The challenge that I have, though, is it sounds like 98% of the details have yet to be figured out. You know, who's going to do what to whom and how they're going to get it done and all that kind of stuff, which just leaves it wide open for, I'll just call it what it is, questionable activities. My concern really that I have is we want to start this off. It sounds like we're kicking this off because we have $1 million sitting in a pot that needs to be used. What were those dollars earmarked for that didn't go to those projects and why? And is this just a solution for the $1 million?
So let me start by saying we're kicking this off because it's something we've been seeking for some time, and we have the opportunity to do it, right, without any additional local costs. But I mean, fair. In terms of where these dollars were allocated, there was some funding set aside for like building improvements, facade improvements that ultimately weren't allocated to those projects. In terms of the function of this, the activities of this, I want to be super clear. There are guardrails in here, right? Both in terms of how the state designed the statute with this, but also in the specific local ordinance. I mentioned earlier, right? You can't acquire a property in a municipality without that municipality's express approval, right? This is designed with guardrails to allow for essentially specific targeted projects within these communities. And in terms of kind of timing and function for us, like Will County is the 4th largest county in the state of Illinois. Not only do the 3 that are larger than us already employ this tool, including DuPage quite recently, to be candid, several of the smaller ones do as well. And this is something that, frankly, is sitting out there that our communities would benefit from. We just haven't taken advantage of in the past. And it really does come down to a challenge of just getting it off the ground, starting with some seed. But it's frankly overdue, but it is simply a tool. Like at the end of the day, it is just a development tool that we don't use. And I'd like our communities to have the opportunity to use. And to go a step further, the way this is written is very intentional, right? This isn't for us at the CED. This isn't a tool that we want to own. It's designed to be run by that board, by the appointees from this body, by the appointees from the municipalities, and stand on its own as its own tool that the municipalities can raise their hand and say, hey, we'd like to do this with this space. Can you help us?
All right, so if, let's just say, let's project forward, we do create a land bank. The $1 million gets dropped in there. What's going to be the reoccurring expense, or is all this volunteer work?
So there is no pay to any of the board members. Right? There is no pay to the Center for Economic Development or the Governmental League or the municipalities. There will, at some point, I'm sure the board will hire either an external firm for expertise or a director to operate it. Most of the other ones do have that, but most of them, it's just they're paying a firm on an as-needed basis to help with it. So the short answer is, like, will there ultimately be some professional services associated with it? Yeah, there will. Will any of that go to us or any of the members? No.
Okay, because just like anything else, once you start a government program, it never dies.
It's true.
And we've mentioned guardrails. Is there a termination clause in this, and I apologize, I can't get onto our internet to read.
No worries. This is
in detail
cumbersome
from what
reading,
we're-
to be fair. There is a termination and exit clause, right? And, to the extent that, a community gets in and they want to leave, they have the ability to do that. If everybody leaves, the entity is distinguished. So yeah, there is a specific clause in here. And again, I was not creative. Like this is borrowed from other organizations.
Understand.
Yeah.
Understand. This sounds to be like it's going to be a very cumbersome process, which requires lawyers and those are all expensive.
No
And
doubt.
that's what I'm concerned about is the administrative expense to do something like this. And when if the county's the one that pushes this forward, when are we going to be asking our taxpayers to fund some line item in some budget for this initiative? And that's where,
It's a fair question. And ultimately, I think that is dependent on program success. There are some of these, I don't want to call anybody out in particular. I will just say one in Central Illinois that does have a funding mechanism from the member municipalities that they pay in for it every year. But it's funds they control that they wanted to put in for this specific purpose, right? So there are some that utilize funding mechanisms from their members. But frankly, that's something that is not contemplated today. It's not something I'm thinking about as a future ask. It's not something I intend to, come back to this entity at some point and talk about. If at some point the county, the current elected officials, the municipalities say, gee whiz, we'd like to put some money in this because we're having some success with it, great. I wish them the best of luck. And the likelihood of me being on that board when that happens is very, very low, to be honest. Like that's a future project for some other group of officials that are having success with it.
because based on your presentation yesterday at the close of it, you talked about needing more apartments and things like that. I just want to make sure that, and if Springfield moves forward with that Build Act, now all of a sudden, Judy and I live 2 doors apart from each other. This becomes one of those pieces of property. Is there going to be a 6 flat put in there? And this is going to be something that's going to be moving forward, and that this land bank is going to be able to help support, or even though the local municipality may not want that, although the state has now mandated that.
So the local municipalities are, ultimately the ones guiding the development goals and the zoning for these projects. Obviously, Build didn't pass, and as an organization and development entity, we have believed in and supported municipal sovereignty, and I think we'll continue to do so. And in terms of that specific item you're discussing, to be candid, that's likely to be a much more high-value property than what an entity like this would be considering. That said, if a municipality does acquire some property, say, in their downtown, and they want to pursue a project like that, great, good for them. But it just, as a general rule, I don't anticipate these being those types of properties. It's a great question, and it's one I think that's on a lot of our minds, but it's those would be market rate properties.
Okay.
Not,
So if we don't pass this, you'll be happy to give the $1 million back on the ARPA funds?
so we would seek other options. We would seek other options to try to get that spent out, but that's certainly something we prefer to avoid. And if we have the ability to build a program that works for the county going forward with it, I think that's the better option.
Thank you.
Okay, before we move on for more questioning, I want to invite Hugh O'Hara. Do you have anything to add on behalf of the municipalities? Hugh O'Hara from the Will County Governmental League. And Doug, probably don't go anywhere.
I'm not
Get a water.
I'm not letting Doug, the expert on this, leave. I would just say that the municipalities want this tool. They have discussed this. They've looked at other options. The municipalities could go to other land banks and start participating in those, but we don't want to participate in land banks that aren't controlled by the Will County municipalities. So having one here locally makes the most sense. Going to the South Cook one or the Central Illinois one or some other land bank just doesn't really make sense. That's why Doug's proposing this to be the Will County one. So there are municipalities that are interested in this. To the last question about, could it become a six flat? If we're the ones in control of the property, we wouldn't be looking to do things on those sites that the municipalities don't want to do there. So if they're not looking to put a six flat in that neighborhood and it doesn't fit the character and all the other things, they wouldn't work with the developer that wants to do that. This would actually give us a little more control. Should the Build Act ever pass. Hopefully it won't. We did a great job at defeating that. So hopefully that doesn't come back in the proposed form again.
All right, thank you. Moving on. Mr. Logan, you put your light on. I'll go to you from. Remember?
Quick question for Doug. In regards to the board.
Yeah.
I love this program. I just have some questions about the board. So in reading it, we start out with 3 people and then they pick the rest of the board.
No,
That's what it says.
oh, the board would pick the expert folks, right? They would appoint the sort of expert folks. The municipalities would choose their own representative, right? Whether that's a mayor or a manager, or, whomever they
Okay.
wanted to put on.
So say I pick, say I'm on the board and I pick someone from XYZ Construction. Can XYZ Construction then buy the properties that?
So that is a really good question. And there are conflict of interest provisions generally in this,
Who's gonna
and they are
enforce?
written in here.
I saw that, but who's going to enforce that?
Well, I mean, the board itself, right? The operating entity in the same way that you would. But look, it's pretty clear cut that if you are on this, you can't take an interest in properties that are associated with this. And so who's in charge of enforcement? Our attorneys in courts, I suppose, if it came to that, but the board just wouldn't sell to them. Like we control the sales. And if you have somebody with a clear conflict of interest that violates your bylaws, you don't sell to them.
In practice. Yeah.
Oh boy, I would say both in theory and in practice, right? I mean, you have to take that seriously.
And then how big is this board? Because I don't see a number anywhere in this.
The number is contingent on, so it's 8 plus 1 for each municipality. So if there are 20 municipalities, there's 28. If there are 6 municipalities, it's 14.
So that could be
right?
could be a rather big board then.
It could be a large board. Yeah, but I also think it's important for the municipalities to all have
I
representation.
absolutely think it's important to have larger boards like that. Okay, thank you.
All right, I know Ms. Berkowitz has been waiting a long time, so let's see what she has to say.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so I've got a few questions. So the purpose of this land bank, is it only to acquire properties that I think how you defined it was they had no value. They were properties that were distressed with no equity value. Is that correct? Is it only those types of properties?
So
They lack equity was the term that you used.
So theoretically, yes, but I do want to be clear that if somebody wanted to gift the land bank at a property that did have some value associated with it, it won't say no, but that's probably not a super likely solution. But say that, for example, we have a community that says, okay, the land bank has this property on this block, this property on the same block. We own one here. It has some value, but we want to aggregate them by donating it to the land bank, then yeah.
Okay, so how many properties are there in Will County that lack equity, that nobody wants? How many properties are there?
So it's really difficult to answer a
No, you
question.
have to have an answer.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer it for you. So
Judy.
how many
Julie.
parcels, Tim? 300,000?
I'm asking a question.
500, sometimes larger.
But
Okay.
these properties that go to auction, they go to auction and they're sold. So there's a value there. Somebody's buying them.
No, not all of them
Okay.
go to auction. What Tim
So-
is describing is the ones that have been through that
Right.
process. and
So
don't
my
go
question is,
to
how many are there? And can you provide us with a list of these properties that have absolutely no value? Nobody wants them?
So I believe that list exists in your treasurer's office, and
Okay.
it's 400 to 500 properties a year, Tim, that go through that. So
That have no value, nobody
they,
wants?
they get through the auction and folks haven't decided to pay $801 for them.
Okay, so because I just need to I need to know that there is an actual need
Sure.
for this. And that's why I'm asking these questions. So there are properties like that. That information is in the treasurer's records, and that can be given to the county board. So we understand there is a need. I'll look forward to that. Now, from what I'm hearing, this program,
Cool.
this tool, thank you. This is going to create, let's call it a unit of it, maybe not government, but a unit whose focus is to own property.
No,
Correct.
its purpose is to clear hindrances to development and not own them. Its purpose is not to hold. I want to be super clear about that. It is to dispose of them as quickly as possible and get them back into productive
Okay,
use.
so why isn't the tax sale capable of doing that? Why can't the tax sale process? I think that's the real question
Sure.
here.
Yeah, no, so the tax sale doesn't have the ability to strategically redeploy these properties, right? The tax sale doesn't have the ability to work with communities and say, these are properties we want to target for redevelopment. The tax sale doesn't have the ability to fix title issues, environmental issues, do property assemblage. The tax sale is very limited in scope, and I should clarify tax auction. I'm sorry. It is very limited in terms of what it can actually do.
So here's what I'm struggling with. If there's a reason why a property can't be sold at a tax sale, that's the real problem. If it's an environmental issue or the items you just described,
Mhm.
that should be addressed in that process. But here's what I see we're being asked to do. This is a board. This is a new board, but this is a separate board. It's not the Will County Board that will be overseeing this land bank, correct?
Correct.
And I was also curious, who brought this concept up to Will County government, and did it go to the county executive or the county board?
So we came to the county board last month, but I'll be candid. This
No,
is something
prior to that.
this is something we've been talking about at CED for a few years. This is something that we have been sort of talking to communities about, thinking about advocating for, as we saw our other partners do it. To be candid, it's simply a best practice that we saw taking place in the counties around us.
So at some point, it either came to the Will County executive or it came to the county board.
It came to the county board last month.
And that
Would
was the
that-
first time were there any conversations with the county executive?
Doesn't matter.
That's what
It doesn't matter. I mean, what if it was
just
my
asking a
idea? Does it
question.
matter? I mean,
Actually, it does matter to me.
all right, we're moving on.
I'm
You're
not
not on the committee, so we have members that do want to
continue.
speak.
I'm a sitting
We've
board
been beating
member.
on this for over an hour. Mr. Richmond.
So thank you, Doug, for answering the questions. And so I was looking at the board of directors of that, and what we do is we have 3 elected officials from the county, which I appreciate you letting the county have a seat at the table, considering that the seed money for this was coming out of the county's ARPA dollars. But after listening to Hugh over there, I think somebody from the your Will County Governmental League or that, I think somebody from his organization should be representative as well as somebody from the state's attorneys. Because like we talked, Kevin, there's going to be a lot of lawyers and a lot of paperwork and a lot of documentation. And I think somebody from the state's attorney's office should be sitting there to make sure that, all of our i's are dotted and t's are crossed. So I think from that perspective, and Tim, you're the one that knows the most about the properties and what can and can't be done and all that kind of stuff. I think that type of a makeup of a board of, what do you call it, your directors or that, would probably be best suited.
So I want to thank you for that segue because I had actually amended this presentation a little bit today. If there were new members, they wanted me to run through it. I actually did make a note on there. I recommend adding governmental league, sorry. But I did. I think that's a good point. In terms of the SA's office, look, they're definitely going to have a role in the outset. I wasn't comfortable committing them to work on something like this for free because that does functionally turn into an expenditure on the county's part if you're using the SA's office time. So look, if that's something y'all want to contemplate, I have no problem with that, but I didn't think that was a call that I was probably okay to make.
I mean, it's probably a conversation we'd have to have, but I think due to the legality of all this stuff, they're probably the best person to be sitting at that table representing the county, the taxpayers, and even Tim, your treasurer's office, to make sure that everything is based on our conversation we just had this morning, right? It would be probably in all of our best interest to have them have a seat at the table. So thank you, Doug.
No, thank you. That's a good point.
Member Hickey?
A comment and a question. First, I want to apologize. I did a brief Google of all of the audits and the transparency and the oversight, and it appears that the Illinois law goes far beyond what some of the national norms are. And not to put Mr. Pryor's work, not to say that he has not done work on this, but it's what we have in front of us is pretty boilerplate.
It is.
So I think much more important than who is actually sitting on the board are the governing policies, and it looks like those are pretty stringent, and they've closed a lot of loopholes, is my understanding.
And that's my understanding as well, right? The policy and procedures manuals for these around the state have definitely continued to grow. And again, it's a relatively young tool, right, in the state of Illinois. It's something that has only been able to be controlled at the local level recently. And so you kind of see this develop and best practices get better. But yeah, it is stringent. And I'm going to be candid. It's a lot of work. But I also think it's the right thing for Will County as we, continue to sort of grow and change. And so we take that on.
I think it sounds like a really promising tool to take some places that might not have the opportunity to develop naturally, to redevelop naturally. And one other question, and maybe this is for Mr. O'Hara, I'm not sure, but is there a list of municipalities that are interested, or is it just all of them, or?
I would.
At this point, we've just had informal conversations with a lot of them about actually using this tool. So, until we get through this initial step.
I apologize. I need you to come.
Oh. I just wasn't moving for him.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Doug. You just keep standing here. There are municipalities that have said they're interested in it. I'm not going to get into a list of which ones right now until we get to this point of actually moving forward. But yeah, there are municipalities that are interested. And I think once it gets up and we do see what we anticipate to be success with it, you'll see other municipalities want to come on board. It's also, depends on what their budgetary situation is. Do they have the funds to participate? So it's, we'll see where that goes, once it gets started.
Great. That sounds great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Board Member Trenier?
Thank you very much, Speaker Van Dyne. One real quick question. Do we have the ability to mandate somebody from the state's attorney's office to be on this committee?
I'm not really sure that you can mandate us, and I'm not sure that we can serve. I'm kind of running this through my head.
Yep.
Of whether there's any conflicts or any things we might run through. So really, this is the first we're hearing of it, so we'd have to look at it pretty
Sure.
in depth, but.
And then secondly, we're trying to move this issue forward today. I believe we're trying to get a vote to approve this today. It's not just discussion anymore. So I'd like to make a motion to amend it to read the county board speaker or designee rather than county board member, or
Great.
county board chair, sorry.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second, Newquist, discussion on the amendment?
Speaker Van Duyn, if I may, and Jackie, if you wouldn't mind terribly, could we contemplate in this same amendment adding Will County Governmental League
No,
to
I
the
have
board
to do
structure?
this two
Okay,
separate-
sorry,
Go in there.
not a parliamentarian.
Would have also gone for state's attorney, but I don't have the authority to do that.
Any discussion on that amendment? Discussion? Okay. Member Ogala?
Thank you. So I think that it's a great idea to have Hugh O'Hara from the Governmental League part of that. I think the amendment to speaker, you can make it speaker chair. Who knows what the next group will call this role, this position? I don't think we need, and I think it's a formality. Whether it's the speaker or the chair, it doesn't matter. It's the same position. So I don't know that the title matters at all for that. I totally think that having somebody from the municipal league on there is an excellent idea. And I would like the state's attorney to look into it to see if they could serve, because I think it's a benefit to be able to ask a quick question to our state's attorney if it's possible versus going outside counsel and paying more. So, and I don't know if you can, but if it's possible.
Okay.
So we can, he's.
This is, yeah, two things, I guess. The motion is to change from Will County Board Chair to Will County Board Speaker or designee. And my second thought was, this is still an advisory to the full county board agenda for next week, like we all know. But go ahead, Mr. Myers, if you want to respond.
And the other thing we're thinking through here, or at least I am as I'm sitting here, is whether we can do an advisory role, just as council either, because of all the constituents. Obviously, there will be county board representation, but is that outside our scope of authority to represent or to give advice to these nonprofits and municipalities? So a lot of things bouncing around my head. We will look into it.
And you have a week to figure it out.
Hopefully I'm smart enough to figure it out in a week, but I don't know.
If I might just add on that too, Hugh made a good point. Municipal attorneys will be involved in this process, of course, as well as we go through it. So.
Can
All
we
right.
get a roll call?
Motion on the floor for amendment. I see no other questions, so can I ask for a roll on the amendment? Yes, ma'am.
Richmond? Williams?
Yes.
Butler? Freeman?
Yes.
Hickey? Logan?
Yes.
Newquist?
Yes.
Oxley?
Yes.
Pretzel?
Yes.
Trinier?
Yes.
Winfrey? Van Dyne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next amendment.
Ye-
To add the Will County Governmental League to the list of board members, if I may, please.
We do have amendment on the floor. Is there a second? Or a motion to amend? Thank you, Mr. Oxley. I thought you were sleeping over there, but seconded by Ms. Winfrey. Any discussion on the second amendment? Seeing discussion, Mr. Leader Richmond.
Thank you for accepting my idea, because I think that he was going to bring, you already are working with the municipalities, you know that, and I'm sure you're going to have their municipal lawyers actually pay their own bills, so thank you.
All right.
You need a previous roll or what?
I would ask for a previous. Second, Hickey. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Okay, now we're back to the original resolution with the two amendments, and we still have discussion items.
Oh,
And
can
I
we just
have-
motion to approve as amended, please?
We're not there yet. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Revis has not spoke yet.
Mr. Pryor, are you okay with the changes that were just made?
I actually am. I think those are, I mean, they're strong changes. And, you know, I talked about this a lot yesterday. Like we don't have a monopoly on good ideas here, right? And so more people in the room, I think helps.
That's
So,
great.
yeah.
And I also see Mayor Noak was in your posse here today. Is he also someone that endorses this? or-
We actually traveled separately.
Oh,
Though
okay.
I do very much like and respect Mr. Noak's opinions on development issues.
Well, to that point, I would just say that I very much respect your opinion on development issues, as well as Mayor Noak's, as well as Hugh O'Hara's from the Will County Governmental League. So once it gets to the full board, I will be supportive. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And, okay, I'm going to let Ms. Ogala ask her questions, and then I'll go to Committee Member Freeman, since you were very tardy with your light. Member Ogala?
She's been tardy. She's been tardy today. Remember this morning. It's the produce of the road. I just have a couple questions. One is, would the properties only be in municipalities or would they possibly be an unincorporated?
Oh, they could possibly be an unincorporated.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Future funding would come from,
So ideally, this is a recyclable fund, right?
Okay.
But there is always opportunity to seek funding from grant structure, from federal funding, from participants, should they choose to do that. So there are multiple funding streams that are used for these, but ideally, this is recyclable, right? You invest, you push it out to market, you reinvest, but yeah, that's something that it will be contemplated, I guess, at a future time.
yeah, and I can see it even in small communities like my town of Peatone. You have a property like that, it's like, who's grabbing it? Nobody's grabbing it because it doesn't have enough value, but for the mayor of a town, he might say, you know, I'd like to just get that property so we could do something with it. So that makes sense to me. I just have another question here is, and I know our treasurer probably knows this answer. The, what's the number of properties that go to auction that don't get purchased? And I know that can change from year to year. 116, okay. I knew we had a group of them. We've talked about them in years past. And, okay, so my next question is simply with the ARPA dollars. Now, you got ARPA dollars from us. You have them assigned to programs. Do you believe all those programs and projects will happen within the year?
I do. I'm optimistic that all of those will happen within the year. We have some, ongoing programming that's been really successful, partnering with WIB, for example, on some workforce training dollars, and those continue to be expended well. We've received good support on that, and I do.
Okay. I want to thank you for your presentation as well as everything that Mr. O'Hara added. With the changes that we've made today, I think it's great, and I could see myself supporting it at the full board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Freeman?
I would love to call the question.
Thank you.
What took you so long?
Nice.
I'm kidding. All right, I have a motion to call the question. Is there a second? Second, Trenier?
You can't call the question in committee. Oh, that sucks. All right. I can't do it, I guess.
Is that true, Mr. Myers?
In the past, we've discouraged that because committees are intended to discuss the full thing. So, but it looks like we're almost out of speakers.
Okay,
So.
all right, fair enough. Member Newquist?
Sorry, I'll make this quick. So let's just assume that the state's attorneys cannot advise this board. Do we need legal representation for the board? You know, like how a lot of municipalities have an attorney at their meetings, et cetera, or is that something that we don't need to worry about because on a specific deal, it'll be between the municipality essentially, and they'll have attorneys present?
I think in the regular course of business, like a regular meeting, I wouldn't anticipate needing legal representation at all times. But of course, each transaction, real estate transactions have legal attached to them. Municipal transactions have legal attached to them. So there will be some specific instances where, yes, legal is involved, but I don't anticipate it in the day-to-day course of business.
All right, can we Last
With-
question.
With
comment.
with that question that Sherry just asked, then if it's not municipality is in the county, would our SA be able to give us some information on that? He's got his light on.
We're on the same wavelength here. I was thinking the same thing, is if there's some county involvement in, is there ability, it's possible that the state attorney's office might be able to advise for that small portion.
Thank you.
But I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. Get that info. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pryor and Mr. Hugh O'Hara. Thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to ask for a roll. As amended. This is 26-4979, the resolution establishing a Will County Land Bank as amended.
Richmond. Williams. Butler. Freeman. Hickey. Logan. Newquist. Oxley. Pretzel. Rainier. Winfrey. Van Dyne.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Congratulations, gentlemen. Moving on, I'll give a brief explanation before I try to ask for a motion. This resolution establishing a single-member Will County Board districts, the intent was to come up with a referendum that was non-binding to ask the constituents of Will County. After further review, the state's attorney was asked to do some research, and what they had come up with is, in fact, to have a single-member district, the referendum has to be a binding referendum. I don't believe it's the interest of the executive committee or the full board to have a binding resolution for single-member districts. So I apologize. It was my understanding that it was supposed to be non-binding. So I would like to look for a motion to remove this item in a second, and then we will have discussion. So there's a motion by Hickey to remove item 26-4989, a seconded by Mrs. Trenier, and then comments on the removal. Member Trenier?
Yes, this is another situation where our state legislators are letting us down. They have statute language on the books that make it very clear that this should be an advisory referendum. I get my information from looking at the statute. I assume that these are the laws that are in effect in our state. And after speaking to the state's attorney this morning, I've been disabused of that notion. In fact, apparently in the 1980s, almost 50 years ago, there was a state Supreme Court case that clarified this and said that it had to be a binding resolution to change your board size and to change your election process. I find it interesting that in 2010, nobody came up with this idea, because we went from a 3-member board district to a 2-member board district, and there was no referendum whatsoever. So I personally think it's a mistake to have a 2-member board district. If we are unwilling to pass a referendum to go to single member, and maybe even the voters are unwilling to have a single member district, then I think we need to go back to the 3-member district. I think it is inappropriate to, on purpose, potentially have an 11-11 board. This is not the first time we've been tied since they made this change. This is about the 4th or 5th time we've been tied since 2012. And that puts whoever sits in the county executive chair in the position of having to break that tie. And they are not a member of this legislative body. We are the legislative body. We should be making the decision, and not the county executive, no matter who it is. And I won't be on this board in 2032, God willing, but I will be contacting whoever my county board member is to make sure that in the redistricting process, we go back to a 3-member board district. Whether we have 7 districts, 5 districts, I don't really care. You want to increase the board membership back up to 27? I don't really care. But it needs to be an odd number. And so I will not support a binding resolution, because that's not what our statute says.
So you'll be in favor of removal?
I'll be in favor of removal.
Thank you. Mr. Butler?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when this gets removed from this agenda, that it doesn't go back on the county board agenda for this month because of any deadline issues or anything like that.
I can assure you it will not, because when we passed the full agenda today after this committee, or during this committee, it will not be on there if it's removed.
Okay, well, there's always that one loophole when it's time sensitive. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure that there was no time sensitive issues here that we're
Understood.
going to apply.
Yep, no, nothing to
And-
worry.
And honestly, I just wanted to comment on I get what you're saying about the not wanting to have a even board, 11-11. And, I understand it's a problem when the executive gets to break the tie. But in my opinion, an 11-11 board would be the perfect number if the executive was not allowed to break the tie. It would force both parties to cooperate.
Good luck. I like your positive thinking. All right. Let me shoot over to Member Newquist.
I just want to say I'm in favor of removal, but for a little bit different reason than Member Trainier. I just believe that it would require a lot of effort on everybody's part to pass this amendment. And I don't think the majority of people really care if we have single member districts or not. And so for that reason, I just think we have so many other pressing issues that I'd rather see us focus on than this particular one. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Oxley.
Yes, I would support that also, but one thing that's came up, it was stated that it would save $600,000. The last time I did the math, 11 times 23,000, it's only $253,000. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So there's a motion and a second. We had discussion. Do we want to take a roll? Can we take a roll? Previous by Freeman, seconded by Logan. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, that motion will carry. We do not have any other old business, so moving on to new business, we do have quite a few items. Let's invite Tina Mackey up from the Will County Health Board, 508 Board, for her quarterly presentation. I'm sorry? 708, I'm sorry. I've been sitting up here quite a while. Mrs. Mackey.
7:08 this morning.
That's right. Thank you.
It's still morning for a few more minutes. Good morning, and I appreciate a few minutes of your time. I'm happy to be here for a quarterly report representing the Will County Community Mental Health Board. Next. Yeah, we've got, you've been given the materials, but I've also put them together in a little booklet. I think it'll be helpful if we maybe just walk through the booklet instead of the attachments. So initially, we've got some information about the development of the Will County Community Mental Health Board, the mission and values. Our board members, our board president is Elena Lynn Costa. We share her with you folks on the Will County Board. Patricia Mead, Vice President, Jessica Parks, Secretary, Terry King, Treasurer, and board members Tessa Quinlan, Christina Santino, Juhi Fahim, Khadijah Sufi, and Tim McGann, and round out the members of the board. We meet on the second Monday of the month. We actually meet at the Will County Health Department. Sometimes that can be a little confusing, but it's a nice community room there, very accessible, lots of parking. So the 2025 grant cycle, we've just completed the first page 5 and 6 give you sort of a snapshot, some information about the year-to-date expenditures and in the three pillar categories that those dollars were spent. The average project completion again by pillars. We served about 19,000 residents in this first grant year, so good performance. I think we're just getting started. That number does not reflect the residents served by the Will County Health Department Behavioral Health Division, which was about 7,000. So about 26,000 folks served in this grant cycle, which is again direct services. That really doesn't accommodate the ripple effect of those services, which could be exponentially greater. Staff hired and existing staff supported, and then again, a summary of the 2025 grant cycle. We've learned a lot in 2025 about the administration of the program. I think some of our grantees learned quite a bit about providing GAP services. So we're looking forward to this next grant cycle. The 2026 grant cycle opened for application January 2nd. We took applications through January 30th. And then on or about April 1st, grant awards were, grantees were notified and finalized. We still have some folks that have yet to sign contracts. They have an opportunity through the first quarter, through July 15th. But we've never had anybody turn down the grant award, so we're looking forward to completing that. Page 8, we've got the 2026 strategic priorities. These priorities help direct the funding. They're very similar to last year. We do have some additional emphasis on early intervention and prevention. And again, those strategic priorities help to direct our funding process. If we could skip forward to page 12, we've got a general picture of the financial outlook. It breaks down sort of, where the grant awards, the competitive grant program, our contribution to the Will County Health Department Behavioral Health Division schedule again for this year. Some information about Connect Will County. We'll talk about a little bit more in a second here. Emergency funding and operating funds. And then the little pie chart with a breakdown of where most of those expenses are going. Again, sorry, I was out of order a little bit, but if we go back one page to page 10 and the next slide, we've got Connect Will County. We've talked about this through the year. I've met with the Joliet Fire Department for almost a year now. The Joliet Fire Department initiated a community cares program. There was some funding from the Community Mental Health Board in the 2025 grant cycle. We funded probably the fourth quarter of counseling services that was facilitated by the fire department. And the data that is resulting from their program, from their community cares program, has really been excellent in terms of the number of calls to the fire department, the reduction in calls, the number of risk services that have been identified as reduction. And so the Will County Community Mental Health Board has made a commitment this year out of our subrecipient funding to commit to the Connect Will County program. It will fund, and there's a lot of explanation there in the booklet on page 10 and 11 about the needs assessment in the county, the absolute need for mental health services. And so we're going to make that commitment to fund Connect Will County. The Joliet Fire Department, with their level of experience, has agreed to facilitate the program initially. As we take this program into perpetuity, I think ultimately it may shift to the Will County Health Department, but initially the fire department's going to help us get it started. We've got many fire departments on board. Lockport, Plainfield, Troy Township, Beecher, all have demonstrated interest in looping into this program, and so we're going to learn a lot. I think it's going to be an excellent program in the long run. Just briefly, a resident of Will County who doesn't have insurance, perhaps they're underinsured or lack of insurance or Medicaid or having difficulty finding Spanish-speaking services or neurodivergent services, can call the phone number 815-724-3506. A social worker from the Joliet Fire Department will answer the phone. They'll provide a quick assessment, and then they can help the person actually get an appointment. It won't be a situation where they'll give a number and say, goodbye and good luck. They'll actually work through the getting of the appointment. The individual or family will then go on a spreadsheet, and there'll be follow-up for that person. In the terms of the Community Cares program, that's what makes that program successful, is that We're not just giving a phone number and saying, you know, good luck to you. We're helping to facilitate the appointment, helping to facilitate follow-up. If the person doesn't go to the appointment, for example, there will be a phone call. If they don't answer the phone call, there'll be a fire department person knocking on their door to find out what's going on. Do you need more assistance? Can we be more helpful? And so again, we're going to learn a lot initially, but we are providing the funding for this program. We've got lots of partners on board, lots of people interested in a successful effort. And so we're really looking forward to that. And I think we'll see some results quickly. Joliet Fire Department, for example, in the Community Cares Program, they have reported that emergency calls to the Joliet Fire Department for mental health issues was about 26% a year and a half ago. Now that percentage has been as low as 4% in some months. So, and the feedback is that people, instead of calling for emergency services, when they're struggling, they call their therapist. They call some of the other support, warm-off, handoff services that have been provided through the fire department. And now going forward, through Connect Will County, we'll be able to see some of those things too. Okay, and then finally, we've got in the booklet the providers that have been awarded money in the 2026 grant cycle, the dollar amounts that they've been awarded, and then a few sentences, a short synopsis of the programs or services that they plan to provide. And we've got quite a few grantees that are folks that are repeating from last year, but several some very exciting new programs that talk about direct services and primarily for gap services in the community in the areas of mental health, substance use, and intellectual developmental disabilities. And then finally, some information. If you ever need additional information, if you'd like to meet, I'm always available. We'd like to have you like us on Facebook, where we have a growing social media profile. Some other good things happen in that area. Also, I included we did this last year, and it was kind of nice. People enjoyed having it, but I included just a map that kind of maps out where the grantees, some are their corporate office, most are where they're actually providing the services. So it gives you an idea across the county of the layout. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tina. We do have a question from committee member Micah Freeman. First off.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for sitting with me the other day and answering all of my questions. I really do think that from where we started just a couple of years ago to now, this report is I love the thoroughness of it. The map is very detailed. How often do you have to go back once you have gone through the original award to make sure they've done it correctly?
Like in terms of monitoring, for example? Okay, so good question. The application is completed and their selection is made. And then we are very aggressive with site visits. We've been to a dozen or so grantees locations already. You saw the video that we did in the spring. We've already started to take pictures and video with an eye toward maybe a short video in the September presentation. One of the framework of the grant program, the design of it, that it's a reimbursement program, that in and of itself really helps us to monitor what's happening with the dollars, if people are actually doing what they're saying they're going to do. So we get a payment request. We look at the request, we confirm that the supporting documentation confirms where and when the money has been spent. We compare it to their grant application and budget and make sure that they're doing, for example, what they said they were going to do. And then we have these site visits, we have lots of ways. We check on social media. We might call a board member or call the staff member. We do some quality assurance calls to recipients. So there's lots of ways for us to check to make sure what's happening is happening. But again, that element of the reimbursement, that gives us a real opportunity to make sure they're doing what they said they were going to do in the grant plan before we reimburse the money.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Member Logan.
Thank you. Is there any way that we can get these receiving organizations to actually come at our county board meetings and present like 5 minutes of what they've done?
We would love to do that. We do have folks come to the Community Mental Health Board meeting. And we did, I don't know if you recall last year, my very first quarterly presentation, I had some folks from the Hive, some young people, recipients of the program, and we had a couple therapists that were providing services. The presentation was supposed to be at 10 o'clock. We did it, I didn't get up here till almost 2. You know, it was really hard for some of these special needs young people to sit in the lobby for a couple of hours.
Maybe we can move you to the front because it would be kind of cool for everybody else to hear.
Oh.
Not necessarily where the money's going, but now that the money's been in play, we used XYZ money for this.
No question. And that's what really prompted the video that I played it last spring, because who cares what who cares about what I have to say or the information? Really, you want to see the young person being served, right? The testimonial. So the video did a pretty good job across the breadth of our awards, but no, I much prefer to have a person that's being served or a family that's being served. There's some really neat programming efforts occurring. And so we're happy to give it another
I'd be
try.
up for that. And maybe we can move them to the very front. so
Okay,
they can
happy
get
to give it
out.
another try.
Thank you.
Okay, Member Ogala.
Thank you. So I was just looking at the book, and you said that some are repeat grantees, which I totally understand why and the need for that. And new, maybe we could do a different color. So this is a new one this year. Easter Seals, let's just pretend Easter Seals, DuPage and Fox Valley, 50,000. Maybe make that a yellow or a different color than the green. Green is standard. I don't know, whatever.
Good idea.
That would be nice to see. Do you still have funds available if there were organizations that would be looking? Do you have some available?
No, we've committed the funding. We do have emergency funding, and we haven't, in the policy for emergency funding, we haven't limited that to current grantees. So there is a little bit of opportunity. We've limited that to 30,000 per request. But for example, if a provider had a roof repair or a freezer go out, those kinds of things. I have no power at home right now. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to get my freezer plugged in so that I don't lose all that meat. So those real kind of little emergencies, that would be a narrow opportunity, but some opportunity, yes.
But that would be to those who've already received.
Well, we haven't limited it to current grantees. So if there's a program that is in line with our strategic priorities, maybe they didn't apply for a grant, maybe they didn't qualify.
So maybe there is a little bit.
There's a little bit of space there.
Because I do know of an organization that's looking for accessories tools for autistic children. So
I will send you the application.
Perfect. And then I just want to say, I love that we have joined with the Joliet Fire Department. I had a friend years ago who had an immediate issue with one of her teenage sons. And she called that person, couldn't help. Next person couldn't help. So, and I didn't know where else to send her. I love the fact that they will get you an appointment, because when you're in that situation, you can keep calling, but to be able to make a call, that person knows what's available and can get you set up. That's a life-saving to the parents. So I totally love it.
Absolutely. And it's, folks that are living with mental illness or living with a substance use need advocacy. They need help. And if they, if they are able to at least reach out to the fire department, we've got a couple fire departments that are going above and beyond. They've bought tablets. Iris is the countywide clearinghouse for services. We've got a couple of fire departments who their plan is right on site. They're going to have the tablet. They'll go into Iris. They'll refer the individual who's in crisis so that if they go to the emergency room, once they come out, they've got that support. They'll have a warm handoff for help. And the fire department is being looped into every individual. Their local fire department will be looped in. So Joliet won't necessarily be running all over the county, but those other fire departments are eager to be involved, and they'll be looped in, and they'll be the folks with follow-up.
Thank you, Tina.
Leader Richmond?
Quick question, Tina.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. I see how you've put out the awards and all that. Do you have a percentage of dollars that don't get fully spent? And kind of to Judy's question is, how can we reallocate those in a timely manner for some of these maybe smaller type of initiatives?
We do, and I didn't forget that you asked me that question in the spring. I'm so close to a spreadsheet that shows exactly what people were awarded, what they spent, what they left on the table. It's about, I'm not good at percentages off the top of my head, but out of the $5 million, it's about $300,000. I will definitely get you that spreadsheet when it's completed. It's taken us a little time to reconcile those dollars. We had they had till May 1 to ask for reimbursements. So our plan for that $300,000, we had a couple of applications for 2026 grant cycle who were in line with our strategic priorities, but they didn't quite have their paperwork completed. Their 501c3 wasn't complete yet. So the board is probably we're going to evaluate. We are likely to add them as a 2026 grantee and roll that unspent money into that grant award.
It's roughly 6%.
Roughly 6%. Thank you.
6.2, be honest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Just kidding. Member Hickey.
Thank you. I would just like to thank you for everything you've done. I know that we've sat together in the past, and I've come to your meetings, and I had asked about minutes. Those are up to date and are amazing, and it's a great tool for anyone who can't actually make it to the meeting if you want to see what's going on. They're very clear and very thorough. I have seen the compassion with which you give out the emergency funding. I think there was, is it Health Matters that needed some extra that
yes.
co-pays, which is an excellent thing, which anybody could be facing that throughout our county. So I really appreciate you making sure that they had what they needed to continue doing their good work. And I think that we all just need to be very aware of how lean the overhead costs are for this particular program. You have done an amazing job of keeping the costs very, very low. And I think that it is something that we can really hold up as money well spent. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We try to be very conservative. But we're trying to be very good stewards of the dollars. I will say that our one splurge, and I'm thrilled to see some folks grabbing those stress balls and squeezing that brain. That was our one splurge, primarily because we have, on our podcast, we have guests. I'm doing quite a bit of speaking in the community. So it is nice to have just one item to be able to share with folks. But other than that, we're pretty conservative. Yeah, no throwing of the stress balls, please.
Perfect. And I may have a booking for you coming up
Okay.
in Wheatland Township.
Yeah,
So
we're
let's talk
developing
soon.
our speaking engagements, so please let me know.
Thanks so much, Tina.
Thank you. Mark, I do see you, but Ms. Trenier jumped in, so I will go to her. Mrs. Trenier.
You have your meetings at the health department.
We do.
Do they have the ability to videotape and record and put them on YouTube.
You know, that came up just about a month ago. Quite frankly, I don't even remember who asked about it, but I think we'll be talking to Mr. Pelkey.
Wonderful. Thank you.
In
for-
fact, I think it was Mr. Pelkey that brought it up, that said, we'd love to be helpful to you.
Yes, he's a very helpful guy, except for when he doesn't agree with you.
So
Strike that from the record.
No, that's true.
the health department does do some recording of their own meetings, so I think it's within our reach.
Yeah, I got to believe they've got an owl or something in their conference room that they, that this could be recorded. And because it is hard sometimes to get to all these meetings. And I do watch the planning and zoning now that we've gotten those on to our program. So thank you very much, Mr. Pelkey. Now you just need to add one more.
All right, Mr. Revis, last comment or question? Here we go.
Lead off with the easy one. Really appreciative of the CAC's recipient of another grant. They do great work. I'm a big supporter of them, just like Member Brooks and all the others on the board, maybe except one or two. But my next question is about this Wheatland Township program.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the controversy that it has caused in Wheatland Township for their public meeting tonight as well?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are many people in the community very upset because the grant recipient, Wheatland Township, told them that this wouldn't be on an agenda and it wouldn't be moved forward, at least in this year. And now it looks like it's being moved forward. When I say I'm getting dozens of calls on this, I'm getting dozens of calls, and people are very upset, mostly because of the sleight of hand that's going on with it. So can you speak to the merits of that project so I'm better informed on it? As I understand it, it's going to 3 or 4. I don't know if you know the details, so stop me if I go.
I do.
Okay, so
I
it's
do.
going to 3 or 4 District 202 schools, Timber Ridge, Plainfield East, Plainfield North, and then Plainfield Academy, or it might be instead of Plainfield North, it's JFK and Plainfield Academy. The problem is, while many students from Wheatland Township do go to those schools fall outside of Wheatland Township.
Okay.
So, many of the residents feel that this is an example of a program that is going beyond its skis, and more importantly, or more specifically, it's a township unit of government going beyond the scope of maybe what they should be involved in. Can you help clarify some of the details on that so I'm better informed on it?
Sure. When I say I know the details, I know the detail of the grant application and our relationship with Wheatland Township. I'm not terribly familiar with the circumstances of the controversy in Wheatland Township, but I will tell you, in terms of our evaluation of the grant application and the reason that we approved it, this year we're expanding with Connect Will County. It's the counseling program. We anticipate lots of effort in being invested in this program countywide for counseling for individual residents. Once that becomes a robust effort, our next effort, our long-term 3-year strategic plan, calls for sort of a paradigm shift to really into early intervention and prevention. There's so much research that indicates we've got to start providing services for children younger. And so we're sort of on the lookout for that program in the schools that will help do that. There's many schools throughout Will County, lots of different opinions, lots of different proposed programs. Last year, we funded a program, Leader in Me at Steger School District, with this idea in mind, that we're seeking that program that we can fund as a school-wide, county-wide school initiative that educates, trains teachers, administrative professionals, and provides those supportive services for children. And again, not to get too far off base, but the Leader in Me program is an excellent program. The scope, it it reimagines the culture in the school. It educates every school teacher and every administrative person that in every interaction with that youngster, we're building confidence and self-esteem and positive reinforcement. So just an example, those kinds of, so Wheatland Township, their application is similar to that. They want to fund 4 schools, the way they describe it to us is alternative
They might be
schools.
the alternative programs within those schools,
Right.
but as I know it, and I know it pretty well, it's Timber Ridge, JFK, Plainfield Academy, which obviously is the main alternative school, and then it's either Plainfield North or it's Plainfield East. I'm almost confident. it's
Okay,
Plainfield East.
so what they've described in their application is special needs students, particularly in terms of behaviors and behavior modification
Yeah, and it's like 40 or 50 families, something like this.
per site, right?
Oh, per site, okay.
Yeah, I think. Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
The project will serve 45 students ages 13 to 15, 15 students at each of
Okay,
3
so-
District 202 schools. But again, the
Each school.
community, they're talking about 4 of the schools.
Okay,
So, but can I think I've heard a lot from you. May I?
please.
Okay. So my problem with this is it's Wheatland Township, not Plainfield School District. If this was something, a grant going to Plainfield School District, I really don't think you'd have people up in arms about it. But this is the township getting involved in District 202 schools and their curriculum and their resources to help other students. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's the right place. And I think this is why we're getting so many, I don't know if you're going to this meeting tonight, but there's going to be a large presence there from the community.
I didn't know about it. So from my perspective, we're talking about residents of Will County.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, so.
But that's
so-
your perspective. Wheatland Township's perspective needs to be Wheatland Township and the duties entrusted to the township, not creating a new school curriculum. So I'm just.
Well, so that's gonna be.
I'm in favor of a lot of this stuff in here, and I think you're doing really great work, but this one, I think we really missed the mark. There should be no reason that a grant is going to school districts, or excuse me, a township for something being done in school districts. If we were to do programs like that, I think it should go directly to the school district.
Okay.
So that's just my
Point taken.
opinion. I think and that's a very valid opinion, and we're going to see the outcry from the community tonight, so
Point
thank you.
taken. For what it's worth, the
Purely
contract has not been fully executed at this point. So they may be,
Consider that and change some of the scope or some of the details around it. I would appreciate that, or bringing me into that conversation. I would love to play a role, so thank you.
point taken.
Thank you.
Member Trenier.
Thank you. I couldn't disagree more. As the township administrator, I was responsible for working with Lewis University in their effort through federal grant money to work at several middle and high schools. And what they did sounds pretty much like what I'm reading here. And in fact, I encouraged Lewis University to reach out to you for grant money before I retired from the township. I don't know if they've disbanded the program because they lost their federal grant, but they worked with about 15 students each semester, and the parents had to agree. And they worked with those students on, I would call it behavioral issues. And they ended the project each quarter with a mock trial. The idea was to teach these young people, and they were in the age of like 13 to 17, about their behavior and how they could end up in a long-term locked up place where they don't want to be. And I found through watching this program take place, and the reason I'm familiar is the township provided the space, we provided the snacks, and we provided the transportation, taking the students home and picking them up at the school. It was a marvelous program. Again, I don't know if Lewis has reached out to you or if they just gave it up altogether, but I commend Wheatland Township for doing this. And if there's controversy, it sounds to me that it's political and not really based on what they're trying to do in their community and what they're trying to sponsor and help with. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Hickey.
Thank you very much. I would just like to say, Tina, I know that you have come across many, many parents of special needs kids in your work. I am one of those parents. I wasn't lucky enough to come across you when we were in our very troubled years, but back then, I wouldn't have cared where the help was coming from. I just needed help.
Sure.
And I did not have time to go to political meetings and advocate for myself. I was busy doing IEP meetings and traveling across the country trying to find the best care for my kids. So I hope that if this meeting takes place and we don't all get blown off the map by a tornado this afternoon,
Yeah.
I really want to make sure that we understand that the people who are going to be the recipients of this probably don't have the time to be showing up. And I have to say, if I would have been given a lifeline like this back in the day, I would have been so grateful. And I mean, I was fortunate. We had resources. We were able to do a lot of things, but knowing that somebody cared in our community besides my immediate family would have been huge. And I say that we had many, many caring behavioralists and teachers and folks at schools and speech paths and OTs and PTs and all of the list of places that we had to go. But knowing that somebody in my local government was looking out for us would have been huge. So I hope that that is kept in mind when this meeting takes place. So thank you. I appreciate you listening to my comments.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good program, but we'll certainly respect the direction of the Wheatland Township.
Thank you. Good question. Mrs. Berkowitz, you are next.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I too have been getting a lot of calls, Tina, about that, that new division. I think they're calling it a mental health division at Wheatland Township. But when you go on their website, you literally can't find any information. Even if you search, there's no mental health division. I was able to find one meeting dated March 18th, 2026, but I can't find minutes or anything, even when I use the search function. So one of the things I was curious about was apparently, first of all, a lot of people are saying to me, why would a township get in the mental health business? We've got our health department, and they're already experts at identifying and providing the service. So why are we duplicating this? I have asked questions, and apparently this is all, we're learning and we're creating.
Okay.
So why recreate something that already exists, whether it be at the health department or even that Joliet program? So basically, to me, one of the issues I have is how to answer these questions from my constituents and to understand what, as a county board, because we have a little bit of oversight, not much, but what can we expect from these organizations that they have no mental health experience or knowledge? So they decide they're going to hire people and bring in people who are, they claim, experts. And apparently they've brought in people who don't reside in Wheatland Township. They're from two members are from Joliet. So that is also creating some disappointment from township residents. So, yeah, I mean, you have awarded a grant to a township that they don't have a program. They don't have existing history or experience.
Sure. So there are, I would say we've got a few grantees who have made application for funding that is a new program area or service area. I'll give you one example. Trinity Services has a grant application for a teen mental health center. So something that they've never offered before.
But they have group homes, so they work
Sure.
directly with these
Sure.
community members.
So,
So they're not really new to
of
the
course,
subject.
of course. So similarly, though, Wheatland Township has partnered with those school districts and the mental health professionals that work in the school
So there,
districts.
as of a month ago, there was no signed agreement, nothing signed. There was no agreement. Has there been in the last, has there been one presented?
No documentation.
Right.
But the schools have confirmed that they're involved with the potential program. And they're working through the school mental health staff to implement the program. So just to be clear, though, our involvement with the situation is the evaluation of the grant, the evaluation of their ability to implement that grant, which, we felt was likely given their partnership with the schools. We've gotten grant applications from folks who said, oh, no, we're going to provide this service in the school. And when we talk to the school, they say, we don't know these people. We haven't, we have very similar circumstances where we haven't funded those programs.
Well, I will let you know that the school has confirmed that they have no agreement for meeting spaces. So Wheatland Township would have to rent, and there is no rental agreement. So where are you having these services? That's a big unknown.
Okay.
And,
Well, and ultimately, again, they haven't signed the contract. We don't have a fully executed contract. They may be waiting for this meeting this evening. I don't know at all what their plan is. But also, again, we talked earlier, that's the value of a reimbursement grant. If for some reason they don't implement the grant properly or at all, or in partnership with the school, then they wouldn't be eligible for reimbursement of the money. So the program would not probably occur.
thank you.
Thank you for all the questions. And once again,
Yeah.
thank you for the
Thank you for your time.
quarterly report, Tina. So we'll move on. Next up, we have our Will County Coroner to give her annual report. And she had reminded me that, which I hate to say, but she wants to get all her questions answered today since she has the information. So with that being said, good afternoon, Coroner.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Speaker Van Dyne. And I want to especially thank the county board members that took the time before now to ask questions or contact me via email. It made me feel good that you actually looked at what I gave you, okay? So I want to start out right now. Who has questions? You were given the report. It is on my website.
I guess we're going to open up the questioning first. I seen, oh man, we got quite a few. So let's go with Mrs. Trenier first.
I do not have any questions. I just want to thank you for a very lovely report.
Yes.
You are welcome.
Oh, it looks like I got a ditto next to me.
You're welcome.
All right, Member Hickey, thank you.
Hi. Again, I agree with Member Trenier. Great report, very, very thorough. One question. I know that we've discussed at length in different committees, the decisions that you make about whether to perform an autopsy or not. Can you speak a little bit to that? And I don't know if I saw the numbers. They may have been in there, and I've just looked at it a while ago when you first gave it to us, so I may have.
It's
overlooked it.
okay.
Thank you.
Kelly, I'm super smart, but I do not have an eidetic memory, okay? Every case is a case. Nothing is looked at. You start from the worst, you go to the investigation to figure out what has happened. When we go into a case, no matter what it is, we have to do an investigation. And I am just going to give you a couple examples on why we would do one where you would think, yeah, no. So one of my senior deputies on one of his first cases, which was a number of years ago, it was a 94-year-old woman that was at home that had a significant medical history. This is a prime example of why you do a thorough investigation. It looked like this was a natural death, you know, hypertension, possibly dementia. And then they checked her eyes and she had petechial hemorrhaging, which turned out to be a family member suffocated her. It turned out to be a homicide. So what you think would be something that would be easy or have a doctor sign out is not always the case. Last night, we had one of my deputies was out on a late call, meaning it came in this morning, of an 82-year-old man. Again, plethora of health issues. Was on hospice up till last week. The family put him into palliative care. In an independent living facility, meaning he is not going to have 24/7 care. We get the call. I don't care that he was 82, because there's always a but. He was found outside today. Absolutely has to come in for an autopsy, the same as the 94-year-old woman. Okay? Case by case basis, you never, ever, ever assume. And as we look through these cases, there are cases that I do that are like a virtual autopsy. And last year, this is just on these where there's been a broken hip. It is not a natural case. I'm looking at medical records. I'm reviewing. We subpoena. We get all these things in. I did 271 of those on my own. So that saved us $392,000 and some change by me doing that without doing an autopsy.
And you didn't bring lunch?
Yeah, we're foodies. We make sure that kitchen is full of food. The other thing, if you look on the quick overview, when it comes to those, there's things where it says coroner sign natural death. These people may not have seen a doctor for a number of years, but there was nothing nefarious going on, like the woman I described with the petechial hemorrhages, the gentleman being found outside. So I will request records, and they only hold them for like 7 years. Go back and see what diagnoses was. There's a lot of people that do not go to the doctors or haven't seen doctors in years. And I read through every one of those medical records, and that was 314. Those people were not autopsied either. Okay? We do external exams. We have motor vehicle accidents. If it is the driver, full autopsy is done. If it's the passenger, x-rays are done. So there's the difference right there. That is also saving us money. Okay? I see more people.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say thank you so much for volunteering your time to the Sheriff's Police Academy, Citizens Police Academy. That was fantastic. And I know that it was the highlight. Our trip to the morgue was the highlight of our experience. So thank you very much for volunteering your time.
You're welcome.
Sherry Newquist, would you hit your button again? I had fat fingers. Thank you.
Our numbers girl.
My question was actually really similar to Kelly's about, what determines whether or not you do an autopsy. That was my first question, and I think you answered that very satisfactorily. But my next question is the hospice death investigations. I noticed there were almost 3,000 hospice death investigations. I'm assuming those are not autopsies, but could you just explain a little bit about those?
Absolutely. We have 5 manners of death that go onto a death certificate: natural, homicide, suicide, accident, or undetermined. Even if it's 20 years ago, as we're looking at the hospice deaths, we put this plan into place because we were missing these cases. So what would end up happening, it was actually a coroner's case. They were in hospice and we weren't being notified, okay, that this was from a motor vehicle accident that happened 20 years ago. And now they're quadriplegic. They have a Foley catheter in place. They've done aspiration pneumonia because they could not swallow anymore. Every bit of that was related back to that accident 20 years ago. So now you fast forward, this person died, they died from urinary tract infection or the aspiration pneumonia, all related to that accident. We were missing these. So what was ending up happening is these poor families, we would catch it after everything was done, and these poor families would have to go out and get all those death certificates from the bank, from the insurance companies, and they would have to be updated. And they could not have the updated death certificate because, again, it was not a natural death. It was a delayed death. And that's what we wanted to avoid. It's been fabulous. One of the staff came up with a workflow, and it has just been fabulous. We've avoided that. 67 families did not have to do that last year. And out of all of those is that, yep, that's a big deal. It's a big deal if it's one family. So I really take pride in everything that they've done. Did that explain what you were asking, Sherry? Okay, and that is why we look at all those. I look at all of them too, just so you know.
We do have two more lights on coroner, and then I think maybe we'll go into the presentation because maybe you'll answer.
I'm good unless they want to do more with the presentation.
Oh, okay.
I
All
would,
right.
that's why I want to
Fair
do the
enough.
questions now.
All right.
Okay.
Member Freeman.
Thank you. So I spoke with you before and told you I loved your report. It's always really this, it's a sad report, but it's a great report if you can put those two in the same sentence. And it was very thorough and I appreciate that. But you had mentioned phone calls. And I think that it is important that everybody hear about the amount of phone calls that you guys actually do, because it's not just autopsies, it's not just death certificates, it's dealing with the public as well. So if you could explain that. Please.
Absolutely. And I should have put this in the report and I apologize for that.
Offering it to you now.
But I did, Mike Kluga just is fabulous with working with us at the end of the year. So last year, just incoming calls to our landlines. Okay.
Landlines.
Landlines. 35,126. That again was just the landlines. Every deputy, myself, my chief, and the deputy chief, we all have work phones because it's a 24/7. And at the end of the day, the phone calls get flipped over. They're not coming in directly to the office. They go to the LCC, and the LCC, they have a list of our deputies. They'll call them. Calls, voice calls coming in to our work phones, 60,516 last year. 20,505 for the text messages, because we do that a lot, especially if they're out on a scene and you don't want to bother them while they're dealing with the family. That's a lot. I just sit back and think, oh my God, I can't even believe, I have no idea how many the LCC would be doing. So there's
So
your
thank you
answer.
for being available all the time.
All the
and
time.
being so responsive because it's super important. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Member Berkowitz.
Thank you. Couple questions. So traditionally, your report was always given to the full county board. So I'm just kind of curious why we're not doing this before the full county board. And in the past, I've suggested, and I'm going to suggest this again, that so every board member has the ability to hear your presentation and learn more. I'm going to recommend that if it can't be done to the full county board, that we have a committee of the whole. And I think this is important for every department. But I'm just curious why this change and why it's only coming before executive. Thank you.
Well, it actually isn't a change. I did go before public health and safety. Every year you have gotten this, and I think you got these last month. I put these in. It is also listed on my website. And the reason I'm doing this today, Julie, because you had a lot of really good questions that you wanted answered. Can I finish? At a previous committee meeting. I am under public health and safety. This is executive. I gave you a year-end report, and I don't feel coming in front of the full county board is the way to do it. If you feel that that's what should happen, because guess what? That has never happened in the past. I've always given this, and my predecessor as well.
So again, I'll just redirect my comment to the county board. In the past, and you can go back, the presentations, Duffy came before the county board every year, gave us an incredible presentation. I'd like to get that back for the benefit of every county board member, because again, we learned so much when we were able to sit there and have a conversation, ask questions, and, you know, we're always learning as a county board member. We're always learning. And we rely on our elected officials, because I can't do the job of the coroner and I can't do the job of the assessor. So that's my question.
Are you looking
Speaker
for,
Van Dyne,
you
that's
looking for
my-
a response?
Yes, I'd like to know if we can get back to where this comes before the county board, every member, you know, because
Yeah, I respect your opinion. What I think is, what I've tried to do since being speaker is try to get all of our information out during the committee meeting and streamline our county board meetings. I do know our county board meetings tend to last anywhere from 4 to 6 to 7 hours. We do have public here that are here on business. And I think it's a better avenue to take care of business at full board. Like the coroner had said, she had issued this report for all of us to read plenty in advance. I don't think we need to bog down the public with this type of information. We're the elected officials. So I respect your opinion. So as far as I'm the speaker, I will continue to do it this way.
please let me reply. I respect your opinion. However, we have been told that committee meetings should be 60 minutes or less. Okay. And honestly, sometimes you feel like the faster they can get out of the county building, the better. So committee meetings, we don't have the ability to really, if we need more time, because that pressure is, everyone's watching the clock. And for that, and again, and then we get to the county board, the full county board. I understand the public has commitments but they are free to come and go as they need to. If it's a land use item and it's not up until 11, they're free to come in at 10:30. And when the item has been voted on, they're free to leave. So we need to just focus on doing our job thoroughly. And so I don't come to the full county board meetings with, well, it should only be 1 hour, it should only be 3 hours. Yeah, we've had long meetings, but look at what's going on. We have contentious issues. It's part of the job.
I will say that I will comment on the committee structure. You know, they are structured for 60 minutes. And, you know, every board member is entitled to information, but it doesn't always have to be asked at committee. Maybe one individual has a question, maybe the other 7 are not interested in the answer, or maybe they already know. So you can always go to the presenter, the chair, and get information on your own as often as you want. So, all right, I'm going to add this. Now we're going to move on. Are there anything else to be added? Sorry, Julie. I mean, I'm not going to change my opinion.
Speaker, I'd be willing to come and talk anytime. This is a direction that I was given
All right. Thank you.
last year. So I'm trying to get it here. So any questions, and I can answer them via email. Vince, did I not respond immediately? Immediately.
Any other
So-
questions for the coroner? No? All right. Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Mrs. Summers. Okay. All right, moving on, still under new business, number 3, 26-4922, authorizing the Will County Executive to execute a contract with Workforce Services Division of Will County as a one-stop operator for Workforce Center of Will County. Discussion, Mr. Leader Richmond?
So this is just a quick one. Carolyn Portlock, I hope I said her name right. I apologize, Carolyn, from Workforce Investment Board. There's a typo in there. Instead of it reading $425,000, it should read 520. Instead of 425, it should read $520,000. So it's not a Scribner's error, Kevin, in the future. We want to make that motion and get that into the, so I don't know exactly where you want that to go.
Yeah.
Well,
Hold on one
I know
second.
it's on the table. I know I wanted to get this out, and then when do we fix it? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Caroline Portlock with the Workforce Investment Board. Actually, this is not the one that has the error. It's the, sorry, Jim, it's the third one. So this one is correct
Wait.
as it stands.
Are we?
The
me
one-stop
number 3.
operator. Third item of mine. Sorry.
Okay, so all right, so I apologize. I was told number 3. I just assumed number 3, so. Okay, so
Sorry, 3
I'll-
in mine.
I'll retract that and we'll bring it up at number 5.
Very good. And if you don't
Thank
mind
you.
sticking around, that'd be
Sure.
great. So any other discussion on item number 3? It's 26-4922. We do need a previous and a second. Previous, Newquist, seconded by Freeman. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion will carry. Number 4, 26-4923, authorizing the county executive to renew a contract with JJC Workforce Development for WIOA Youth Occupational Training Program. Second Butler, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion will carry. Let's motion and get this next item on the floor for discussion, 29-4924. Authorizing the county executive to renew a contract with JJC College, JJC Workforce Development for a work readiness program. Is there a motion? Motion Freeman, seconded by Hickey. Discussion by Leader Richmond. I turned you off. I'm sorry. Hit your button again. I did it again. There we go.
There we go. Looks like we're on. All right.
Yes, sir.
So Carolyn is up here now. What we need to do is make a amendment to the documentation to reflect. You all right?
You're already doing the right thing. Joe asked if I wanted to speak.
Okay, all right. Changing it from $425,000 to $520,000. And
The contract is correct. The resolution is wrong.
All right. So you're
sorry,
making,
we're doing this on the fly, Joe. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's fine. So you're making
Sorry,
an
I
amendment
appreciate
to make
you.
the change.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you please state the change one more time, Mr.
Okay.
Richmond?
So I want to state the change to reflect a change from $425,000 to $520,000.
And you motion to amend.
Motion to amend.
Second, Trenier, discussion on that amendment. Previous roll by Newquist, seconded by Freeman. All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Second, Williams.
Previous.
Previous, Newquist, and seconded by Mr. Richmond. All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? That motion will carry.
Thank you so
Caroline.
much. Thank you, Jim.
Item number 6, which is Resolution 26-4928, setting the number of assistant state's attorneys. Is there a motion? Motion Freeman, seconded by Hickey. There is discussion, and I have Mrs. Trenier would like to discuss.
I know what the document says, that this doesn't guarantee funding, but this certainly opens the door to funding. And since we didn't fund our budget last year with a tax levy, we used reserves. I'm not in favor of adding more state's attorneys because then the expectation is we're going to fund those state's attorneys. And I can honestly say for at least the last, how long you been on the board, Mr. Speaker? 10 years?
Almost 8.
Almost 8? Have you ever seen James Glasgow sit in that chair? Because I sure haven't seen him in the last 8 years. So I'm not sure they really need any more help. Thank you. I'll be a no on this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? You got,
How did they get 3 new people and not pay for them? Are they only gonna be working for half pay, or they, you know, how does that work that they?
I'd open this discussion up to Mr. Myers.
So under state law, the funding and the positions are 2 separate inquiries. We can't, currently these are funded positions. We can't hire them without the authority for the board. So we have the money to do it, but we can't actually hire them until the total number of assistant state attorneys is increased. If at some point the budget, changed one way or another, we'd have to make hard decisions about how to do that, just like anything else. But currently they are funded positions. We just don't have the authority to do that. And we've held off hiring them to make sure that we can live within our budgets.
Are you find that you're following behind on your caseloads?
Our caseloads are increasing. So from 2022 to current, we've seen, I believe, a 22% increase in caseloads. Each ASA, if you average it on the criminal side, is handling 178 cases, I believe. So yes, and then that also happens to do with people moving up through the office. So we're not able to fully staff certain divisions because we're pulling people into traffic divisions. And I have the chief of the criminal division or the felony division here too for very specific questions you guys might have about the day-to-day operations of the criminal side. But yes, the assistants are seeing a numerical increase in cases.
Yeah, I figured you were falling behind and you guys were really busy because I've requested meetings with you for like 6 months and I still haven't gotten one.
Yeah, we've spoken about that, and you know my thoughts on it.
I do not.
Well, I've conveyed those to you, that we've tried to set those up, and I know that there's been some reach out.
I'll keep emailing.
Okay. I will say, before we move on to more questions or comments, as speaker, I get to be involved like a lot behind the scenes. And I will tell you that, Kevin and Erica are consistently doing an immense amount of research by the things that we have asked, the board members that have asked to investigate, Mr. Pelkey to get all the answers for you folks. They're extremely busy. So if that means anything to you, I feel like, the additional help might be able to serve at least the board and the constituents better. So I will go to Mr. Logan has his lights on.
So the 3 positions, what department?
Yeah.
As much as I would like to have extra help in civil, I suspect Mr. Koch will want to take those for the misdemeanor and the felony divisions.
So I saw the homicides. Homicides are very low for Will County. Crime rates are extremely low for Joliet and the other big ones. I'm just curious, why do we need them? Plus, we have the Safety Act, which is supposedly supposed to be the best thing. So why do we need more attorneys?
Well, homicides and Chris, if you'd like to come up as well.
It said 6 homicides.
Yeah, homicides are a small portion of our overall caseload, but I will tell you just from interacting with Chris and his wonderful people every day, as you know, as a former police officer, the involvement to prosecute a homicide is I don't even know if significant undertaking is a good word for it. We have currently multiple teams on high-end cases, working with multiple police officers a day. But again, homicides only capture a small portion of the overall criminal numbers. So
Again, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Koch. I'm the felony chief. I will say that there are approximately 50 open homicide cases within our court system, as well as several uncharged homicides that are under investigation. As Kevin said, each one of those cases requires many, many hours of manpower to review body cameras, meet with the police department, meet with the coroner's office, meet with the forensic labs to go through and look at those to make sure that the evidence is necessary in order that we have the right amount of evidence so that we can actually charge that case. So I will say, as someone who has been here for 23 years, I have seen the amount of caseload increase significantly amongst the felony unit. When I was a felony assistant before I became felony chief, each assistant would average approximately 75 cases. It's now up to about 150 to 160 cases per felony assistant. We have approximately 4,400 open felony cases in this county right now. And each one of those requires a lot of time and effort. Again, being here as long as I have been, when I was in the lower divisions or in the complaint division, the amount of social media or cell phones or forensic evidence that we would get in was minuscule compared to what it is now. And with that, that is where we use a lot of our tools. So somebody mentioned the Safety Act. When we are doing a petition to detain, that is our initial and one shot to try to get that person who is a violent offender into custody. And so we rely on social media to pull up threats, comments, harassment, in order to present that to the court to try to detain that person so that we can keep our community safer. So I would wholeheartedly agree that, you know, an additional, I would be asking for them in the criminal division. I think our domestic violence division could use an additional assistant state's attorney. Our sex crimes unit could use an additional state's attorney to help assist with the victim-sensitive interviews that go on with all of our most vulnerable victims in this community, as well as our complaint department that has to go through and review all of these cases that come in. You know, when we see and we read in the paper that people are arrested because they allegedly committed a crime, that does not show the amount of work that comes into our office as warrant requests, as investigations. And every time those come in, and this week alone, we have approximately 24 that have been submitted to our office that are after an investigation. Each one of those, it's not just simply look at it and sign the complaint. We have to review that. We have to make sure we have enough evidence. Sometimes we go back to the police departments. We ask them for additional information, do additional work. And so the manpower that goes into that is why I believe from the criminal division, and again, being here 23 years, why I can see the need for additional assistant state's attorneys.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Logan. Mr. Oxley.
Where does this funding come from? All the funding comes from the county budget? Or does any of it come from the state?
There is some grant funding that handles some of our, but the vast majority comes from county corporate.
Okay, and you said you had the funds all available?
Correct. We just have not asked for the authorization for the additional bodies to be placed. So it's a weird two funding source where you do essentially authorize us to hire these positions when you put them in the budget, but the state law requires that you actually set a number of assistant state attorneys.
Right. So you have the money in the budget already,
Correct.
which we corrected to a zero levy increase. So what would happen to that money if you don't use it this year?
Well, any number of things. We might, have to do other things that we're putting off, if computers need to be replaced, those sort of things. Or, I really don't know because I don't know what we would do with the money because I don't know what the needs are. Right now, the primary need is the bodies.
Okay.
Everything else is, a schedule of maintenance on things and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leader Richmond.
So thank you very much for coming out. Chief Judge, I want to make sure I call you the right thing. All right, so what?
Chris is the chief of the felony division.
Chief of the felony division. Thank you, sir, for coming out. So I hear that there's been an incremental increase or an exponential actually increase in the amount of cases that you folks are handling on a day-to-day basis. I hear 75 to now 150 or that. Are these because of I'll call them unfunded mandates based on the Safety Act that are causing you to do more work or repetitive work or chasing your tail, so to speak, to try and get these folks where they belong?
So I can't speak to unfunded and Safety Act as far as that's the law. That's what we use. That's what we follow. But what I will say is that a large part of this also stems back to COVID, unfortunately, because during COVID, nothing got done for 6 months to 8 months in the court system, and that built up an overflow of cases. So all the cases that would normally be disposed of during that 6 to 8 months just kind of backed up. And every month alone, last month, we got 125 new felony cases. And so if that number continues to grow and you're not able to dispose of the same amount or less, then that your felony number just keeps going up. And so the Safety Act is the law. You know, we file our petitions when they're required, when they're necessary. We attempt to keep people that we feel are a danger to society in custody. If they're not, they're released and they work through the process. So it's just that's how we are. That's how we deal with it every day. I will say the Safety Act does require additional work on the front end at the initial point in time, which is also a reason why the additional assistant state's attorneys are necessary, because when those cases first come in, now we have to file a petition. We have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that they did commit the offense. We have to prove that they are a danger to society and that there are no less restrictive means in order to do that, in order to let them out. And so in those serious cases, in violent cases where you have a violent offender, we have to go back through and we look at their criminal history, we look at their background, we look at their violent tendencies, and all of that requires extra time and extra work that 5 years ago wasn't there. But now we do have to do that, which is what we do every day in the courtroom, and let the judges make that determination if they're a danger, and if there's no less restrictive means, then they are held in custody.
Okay, thank you for the detailed explanation. So I guess what I'm hearing from you is that there's a larger burden on the staff to try and, you know, do their job to actually keep our communities safe. But at the same token, too, you mentioned that COVID's been 5-6 years in the rearview mirror. I'm trying to figure out how do we get past that and I'm not saying an excuse, but as a reason for why things aren't done. Is everybody in the state's attorney's office showing up to the office to work every single day?
Sure, it's not,
okay.
It's not a question of the employees.
I'm not blaming the employees.
I'm talking about the defendants, the cases themselves.
Okay.
So if you, I mean, we make offers, on cases, we go to trial on cases, but if the defendants if they don't plead guilty or if they don't have their trial, then that's the only way to dispose of those cases, right? So that number was stagnant for a while because of the situation in the country. And as everything is opened up, if we get 120 cases in last month and we're able to dispose of 120 cases, the number never changes as far as that 4,400. And so what I'm saying is because there was that backup, not because assistants weren't at work or defense attorneys weren't at work, but because the cases weren't able to be brought in front of the court system, that has just, over the years, it just kind of stayed why that number continues to grow. And like I said, there was 125 new felony cases last month alone.
Okay, and I'm not trying to blame employees. I'm a business guy. I try to get to what's the root cause of the situation. You mentioned that. So I mean, not always throwing more people at things is always the answer. Maybe with lawyers it is. But what about the technology? What can we do to enhance your ability to process more faster? And is there an option in that area? And or is there an option with getting you some legal assistance? Not just lawyers, people that can push the paper around or stuff like that. I'm no lawyer, so I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job. I'm just trying to say, how can we move this forward so that this way, I don't know. We always talk about, you know, due process and a timely process of justice. I hate to see things drag on, because what that does is it creates more of a burden on your staff, and also too on these families and these people that are just, you know, kind of plodding along. So I'm looking for, I'm fine with hiring the people, but at the same token too, what can we do? Because we're in an age today where technology can do a lot of things. And are you handcuffed by some of you mentioned computers, Kevin, Is it the fact that we don't have the right assets or we need to look at some of these things?
And Chris is really the expert beyond anything I could ever imagine on this. But I can tell you from just my brief experience, because sometimes Erica and I and other assistants do help out. Part of this equation is not Chris and his staff. They would try cases immediately if they could. We are also handcuffed by the defense. The defense often drags things out, and those are things that start building cases up. So, I won't comment on people's motives in doing that, but if someone drags out their case for 6 months to a year, they're still charging cases. People are still out committing crime, and we say, we're ready to go. Let's try this case. Defense says, yeah, we're not going to be ready for 6 months. So I think they have implemented a lot of technological things to help assist. But just like anything, and we've found some attorneys who've gotten in trouble outside of the county for using AI and things like that, there still has to be that human component. We're not running on computers that are falling apart, or that was just an example of there's, a routine schedule, but.
I understand, but
Yeah.
you made that comment, so I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, so is it, where are our other problems or our other issues? So I'm fine with if you think it's the lawyers that are going to help us move this process along, and thank you, Kevin, for the insight on the defense portion of that. Again, I think this board, I don't think any of us are lawyers or that, but what we do want to do is keep our community safe. And how do we do that? And if this is the solution to actually move these things along in that, happy to give you the funding. You've already got the funding. Now it's just, you just need the blessing to actually go out and do the hiring portion of it. So.
Correct. We're not asking for any additional funds.
And last question, I apologize for your time because I know it's valuable. So 2 or 3 years ago, it was brought before this board, the fact that we weren't paying people enough to actually fill all these positions. So now you say that you have these 3 positions. This shouldn't be a problem to hire these people right now, especially with everything that's going on in this country right now.
I will just say anecdotally, and we do have turnover because just like any job.
Any business does.
And especially at the lower levels, and Chris, stop me if you think, people start out the state attorney's office, they decide it's not what they want to do, they want to get some trial. So we're always churning, but I think we've seen much more applications than we did in previous years.
Okay.
So we are having less trouble getting candidates in the door. There's always hiring is hiring.
People are going to move on.
Right.
That's
But
the nature of the game.
the generous support of the board and the county executive's office has helped us with that issue. I certainly can say in my time at the state attorney's office, I've seen more candidates in the last year than I've seen, when I started. It was really a struggle when the starting ASA salary was $52,000 a year, and you could go do a lot of other jobs for more than that.
Okay. No, I want to make sure that we're not just looking at just one problem and one solution. We look at the whole picture and we say, what do we need to do to make this more efficient and effective? That's all. I'm not questioning anybody on your staff or yourself or how you're managing your people. I'm just like, we're having this conversation. Let's open it up because we're in the budget time right now. And I got to tell you, I'm not a guy that likes to spend money foolishly or frivolously. But I do want to make sure that we get the job done for for our citizens as well as our county. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Leader. Member Trenier, Chair.
Thank you, Speaker Van Dyne. I have another question, and I don't know if you can answer it. I'm just kind of curious how we funded 3 positions without getting the approval at the same time to actually increase the number. And we have increased the number multiple times, even since the Safety Act, in my time on the board. And to hear that every time we increase the number, we get further behind isn't very inspiring to me. And although you may have the money in your budget this year, these jobs, they hire the 3 people, they work till the end of this budget year. Well, we have to fund them again next year. So it's not like this isn't budget creep, as some of my colleagues are fond of using as a phrase. So how did that happen, that we funded these without giving approval to hire?
It's
Why didn't that happen at the same time? In the past, I believe it's happened at the same time.
well, that's maybe one specific instance, but I do know that you know, we do fund certain departments for a number of employees. And when somebody does in fact leave, they may wait 6 months to rehire, you know, and that money is just, you know, you're saving money into your budget. This, you know, this may be some sort of case like that. I don't know.
They're
You're
asking for
exact-
an increase in their number and they're saying they already have the money. It's like we funded them for 93.
Yeah, okay, I understand what you're saying.
Increase the number and now we're asking to increase the number. So I'm just a little concerned about cart before the horse. How did this happen?
Yeah. Kevin, do you want to, you know, you would know the budget more than,
Sure. So I think part of it is just the lag of hiring people. We don't come before you if we don't have full capacity already.
Then why did you ask for the money?
Because there was future plans and there was discussion with the board as the Safety Act was implemented to put a phased increase in the assistant state
Right.
attorneys, because it was a big jump to say, hey, as Mr. Koch said, we're gonna have all these pre-trial detention hearings. I think the discussion, it was with Mary before my time, was let's try to lower the shock here of let's implement these, let's see how things are going.
I think we've hired already 7 more.
I believe the number that has been hired to date was 3 or 4 with a total of 7 over time. And again, I think part of that was, let's see where we're at. What is the caseload? Is it still increasing? And again, your memory may be better than mine. I was not involved in those discussions. But that is my understanding, is there was a phased implementation due to, you know, the increasing it all at once was not palatable. So, and yes, Speaker Van Dyne's correct. If we can find ways to stay with our budget and save money, sure, just like other departments, we're not going to hire people just to hire them. We want to make sure that we're being good stewards of the budget money that's out there. So as this has been a discussion for a while, and so as time has gone on, we're seeing the need for these as the caseload increases, and therefore we're asking for the authority.
Mr. Logan.
I guess these are more clarification. So we have no remote workers at all? You said everybody comes in.
We have people that are on felony call for weeks at a time, so they work remotely because they're manning a 24-hour phone. So that during the night, but other than that, other than specific assignments,
The felony review was that way before
Oh, yeah,
COVID.
I'm familiar with
Yeah,
it, yeah.
yeah, I just want for the rest of the board to be aware, that was not a COVID policy.
No, it's been around for a
And I think what Chris is hinting at is maybe if somebody had a specific medical issue or something like that, that may, but
Okay.
everybody's in the office as a general policy.
Right, well, since he mentioned COVID, and I'm just like, we're all back to being in the
Yeah.
office now.
No,
Okay.
we've been in the office for years.
All right, and the 3 that you guys are looking for, we're not funding. It's funded already.
Correct, yeah, there's no increased request for a budget for
And
that.
then you also mentioned detaining. So how many do we do with those a day? Petitions to detain, I guess they're called.
Sure, and if I could just go back and maybe give a little bit of clarification as to what I was saying regarding the COVID. I wasn't talking about the employees, it's the defendants. And as I think Kevin said, and somebody had mentioned, the defendants have their due process rights. And if the defendants choose to have a speedy trial, then under the law, we have to try that case. But if the defendants don't make that request and they don't ask for that and they ask for continued time, then they're given additional time. And that could be 6 months or a year or even longer on some of those cases. And so, as I think Kevin had said, we're in a position that if we need to go to trial, and we actually have situations where people demand their trial, we go to trial within that 120 days, the state's ready to do that. So what I was saying with regards to the COVID is the number of cases that are in the circuit court system, not as it relates to people by any means working from home or charging cases from home or doing anything like that. And then as far as the detention petitions, it varies from day to day.
On an average day, how
It could
many?
be anywhere between 5 to 10 a day that come in. But each one of those cases then are reviewed on the charged cases to determine whether or not they are detainable, whether or not there can even be a petition that's filed. If not, then they go to court and they get released on conditions or get released on regular pretrial release.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. With the voting members, is there anybody on the fence on this, or do we have a decision that we'd like to make by show of hands? Is anyone on the fence that would like to ask an additional question? Comment? Member Newquist?
Thank you. I'll be really brief. I just want to say that I do recall during the budget conversations that we definitely budgeted for these positions, but it was with the general understanding that the positions would probably be phased in, that it would take a while to hire people. I remember having, definite conversations about this. I think this isn't an off the cuff thing. I believe this was the plan based on the conversations that we had at budget time. So thank you.
All right, with all that being said, can I ask for a roll call, please? This is Resolution 26-4928, setting the number of assistant state's attorneys. We do have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Richmond? Williams? Butler? Freeman? Hickey? Logan? Newquist? Oxley? Pretzel? Trinier? Van Dyne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to number 7 on our agenda, 26-4769. Ordinance amending the Will County Code of Ordinances, Land Usage, Chapter 153. Yes, sir.
I've looked on the computer and maybe I surpassed it. What is the existing ordinance now and what is the change on this?
Member Trinier, Chair, would you like to address?
I'm sorry, I'm busy researching my last question, which is impossible, but I don't believe we made any changes to the swimming pool ordinance. I think mostly they just took old information out, but there should be a red line copy there. So if we did make some changes, they should show up.
Oh, the second one.
But like I said, I don't think we made any changes.
They added and building ordinance.
There's one sentence.
Yeah, one sentence. The very little, because this had been updated recently by the health department not that long ago. And, but we reviewed everything all over again.
Mr. Oxley, are you seeing the changes?
It's trying to get this computer to work the way I want it to work.
I can bring up the red line copy for you.
It's one sentence.
Yeah, it's one sentence. The whole thing is one sentence. It says swimming pools are regulated by the county zoning ordinance and building ordinance. See chapter 155.
And chapter
And chapter
150-190.
Yeah.
Where do I see that at?
You have to go to chapter 150,
Yeah, you have to go to that.
which
chapter.
was approved before.
Yeah. Because we're on 153 now. It was under 150, would have been on your May agenda. I believe we had ordinances that passed in May.
And forgive me, this is me and my computer skills, but what is the change to the ordinance?
This is just, the red line is the addition. What you see that's red is the addition. It's
Okay,
not-
so right now it says you must have a fence for a swimming pool 24 inches. Is this changing it to 34 inches?
No,
Or
that would
12
be,
inches?
that would be in chapter 150, which we already approved.
You're not getting my point.
Sometimes just the description gets changed.
All right, hold on.
We did that in chapter 150.
Okay.
Last month.
Mr. Myers?
Does that help?
So before the changes, chapter 153 isn't much of a chapter. All it said was editor's notes, swimming pools are regulated by county zoning ordinance. We added that red line in there with the specific citations so that you're actually seeing the entire changes. And then it refers you back to 155.
That's exactly what I needed to know. Thank you, Kevin. I just want to know what the changes are, because so many times we make changes to 153-708 to 159-708 shall read this. What does it read now, and what does it read late? It changes my question.
Is there a previous roll? Previous by Hickey, seconded by Richmond. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
And Trinier. Yes.
Let me ask, Member Trinier and Member Butler, are you a yes on this? Thank you. We do have a unanimous vote. 26-4772, ordinance amending the Will County Code of Ordinances for Chapter 154 subdivision regulations. Second. Let's take a clean roll. That way we can run the gamut here.
Richmond. Williams. Yes. Butler. Freeman. Yes. Hickey. Yes. Logan. Newquist. Yes. Oxley. Pretzel.
Yes.
Trinier.
Yes.
Van Dyne.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution 26-4773, Chapter 156 for pollution control facilities. Is there a motion? Previous? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. 26-4774, Chapter 157, Economic Development. Is there a motion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, no other new business. Other new business, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Butler.
So I have a resolution here, and I wanted to have the state's, basically, it's asking the state's attorney to investigate or at least get a formal opinion as to how the special use permit is supposed to be handled. I know that our state's attorney had, credited the people from the land use department as being the experts, but I would say that they are experts maybe in what they do, but not in the way the statute and the ordinances are written, and I wanted a legal description, because when, we said flooded farm wetland is not a delineated description of a wetland. Nobody could reply to that. Nobody could say, yes, it is. It's a specific type of wetland that has these plants and these animals live there. And it's made up of this soil structure. Nobody could say that. Therefore, it is unresolved. Okay? So just that alone warrants an investigation. If one of these wetlands does have a rare species or endangered species here, it's your duty, it's by law that the state's attorney is supposed to investigate and stop any economic development. So I don't blame the land use department at all, okay? This might be how they handle some things, but when you're talking about protected lands, that is not something that you just pass on. It is the responsibility of this board to take all those details into consideration when we voted, okay? And we didn't, because we don't know what those wetlands were. And there were road commissioners who had been responding to the to the companies, and they were not getting a response. They did not have a resolution. So clearly, where it says, good faith agreement does not apply to them. So 2 areas of the permit that is supposed to be done and is supposed to be decided by us with those facts in place, which were not. Okay? And because of that, they can't possibly know the extent of all the panels. Because if there are certain wetlands that are going to be protected that they cannot put their panels in, they can't count those. Okay? So they don't know. Okay? So I'm saying those questions need to be answered from a legal standpoint. okay? Not putting the pressure on some, young lady who works in the building department. I don't think it's fair. And that's what I'm asking here.
Well, you brought up new business, so, and also a resolution. So what is your recommendation on where you would like to see this resolution go? On what committee?
What committee? I think it needs to go to the state's attorney, and we're going to be asking the state's attorney to investigate and come back with answers. I feel like there needs to be some sort of judicial intervention here, and they make a decision on it. Because obviously state's attorney is not an expert, so they cannot do that. So go to somebody who interprets law to make that decision.
Okay. My thought is if it's a resolution, it probably, if we want to direct the state's attorney to investigate, it should come out of a committee with a vote. But maybe to circumvent that process, we can send this along to the state's attorney's office and see if they're gonna to look into this matter.
I would love to think that the state's attorney would be willing to do this for us because they should. And it's not like we can make them do it anyway.
Right.
It's just, make it a statement here.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dan, Mr. Butler. I'm not interested in any comment about the new business unless you have other new business to bring forward, because this item here was just dropped to us and we can't possibly make a comment on it without well, yeah, we'll send all the board members a copy of it. Is there any other new business? Thank you for that. Okay. Well, we don't have a request for state's attorney's opinion at this time. So committee reports, for the lack of keeping us here any longer, does any chair want to, I'll just open it up to the chairs if they want to bring up anything that happened at their committee. Does anyone have a dire need? We do have leaders to talk to, our whips, and also caucus. So if there's anything out there that we need to review. Pardon?
I don't have anything to bring forward. The only thing I request is that the caucuses, we discuss the who and the where for capital improvement.
The who and where what?
We know what to do.
Well, I'll take care of it. It's on there. We're good.
Miss? Oh, okay. Mr. Chair Oxley in landfill.
All I have to say is we're under control. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Well, the executive is not, so executive committee. Okay. Appointments by the county executive. We have 4872, approving the county executive appointments to the Northern Illinois Transit Authority. Motion Trenier, seconded by Oxley. I believe we have a clean roll. Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Mahoney. 26-4925, approving the county executive appointments to the Manhattan Fire Protection District of Will County. Second, Oxley. That joke never gets old. I'm sorry. All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone opposed? That motion will carry. There's no need for an announcement or reports by chair. We do need an executive session, and it was pointed out to me before we go into executive session. I would just like to kindly remind folks, we do have the microphone shut off, and we still do record the executive minutes by this little contraption over here that looks like it's 50 years old. And I know the executive session might be pretty contentious, but if we can limit our side conversations, because the contraption, the 50-year-old contraption it's very hard to pick up what is actually being discussed. So I just kindly ask everybody to please don't do any side conversations so we can pick up the feed. So, pardon? Yeah, just keep your talking to the minimum. So I would like to ask for a motion. I would like to. Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to go in executive session for potential litigation and labor. So move. Second by Freeman. Can I have a roll? Yep.
Richmond, Williams, Butler, Freeman, Hickey, Logan, Newquist, Oxley, Pretzel, Trinier, Van Dyne.
Yeah. Oh, we're good. Okay, so we are out of executive session. There will be no action taken from executive session, so I would like to look for a motion to amend the county board agenda to add all items approved by the executive committee today. Previous Hickey, Newquist, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And I'm looking for a motion to approve the county board agenda as amended. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for July 9th, 2026, and looking for a motion to adjourn. Second, Richmond. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.